Chapter 855. However, these two soul beasts were very troublesome to deal with. They had already been severely wounded, and they had been corroded by the 7 poisoned deer's domain, so their injuries were constantly worsening. As soon as the battle began, the two of them were already at a disadvantage. Their injuries were constantly piling up. However, they were worried about Xiao Wu. They knew that the most fearsome of these 4 soul beasts had yet to make a move. No, I can't let Tang San continue to attack. I have to send a signal to tell him to leave this place. Deming and Ming thought to themselves. However, as their injuries continued to pile up, the 2 soul beasts began to fall unconscious. Boom! The scorching flaming tail of the Inferno Devil Fire Centipede clashed violently with the tail of the Sky Azure Bull Python. CI. Deming let loose a pained roar of rage as the sound of something being burned rang out. This fiery demonic centipede's cultivation was extremely high, and its strength was even stronger than his. In addition, it was thrown down from the sky, so its strength was even greater. The centipede's tail was reduced to a bloody mess. Meanwhile, Ming was also in a tough spot. The black demon tiger, striped rhinoceros, had the most powerful defenses among the 4 soul beasts, and Ming's staff was like striking an iron mountain when it struck its body. It was very difficult for it to succeed. However, the black demon tiger, striped rhinoceros's several meters long horn was able to tear a massive gash into Ming's body with each strike. Tang San, who was watching this scene from the shadows, was extremely anxious. If this continued, Deming and Ming most likely wouldn't be able to last much longer. Even though he had exposed himself during that attack, he had the vast sea cosmic shroud and instantaneous movement. I still have my golden body. That 9-headed snake is definitely the most powerful of the 3 soul beasts. I have to be careful. With that in mind, Tang San charged forward again. He had used the sea god's light on his sea god's trident to almost kill the weakest of the 7 poisoned deer. This indicated that the sea god's light was extremely effective against these evil soul beasts. This was completely in line with what Senior Possessee had said. The sea god's trident was far more powerful than he had imagined, and it also possessed mysterious abilities. He stared intently at the 4 soul beasts. At this moment, the 9-headed snake suddenly blasted a mouthful of black energy toward the 7 poisoned deer. This black aura wrapped around the 7 poisoned deer, and it was actually slowly healing the 7 poisoned deer. Seeing this, Tang San knew that his chance had come. Since the other party was healing, this was the best opportunity. The next moment, Tang San rushed out again. This time, their target was the rhinoceros. The bright blue light of the sea god suddenly fell on the rhinoceros, causing it to let out an extremely painful and angry howl. Tang San flew in the air. He didn't directly approach the black rhinoceros. Instead, he bound the blue-silver grass to the handle of the sea god's trident and used the controlling crane capturing dragon technique to throw it over. The sea god's trident, which weighed more than 108,000 kilograms, instantly pierced through the rhinoceros's hard armor. Then, Tang San took it back again. However, the Hydra suddenly let out a proud roar. In the next moment, he, who was in the state of golden body possession, was shocked to find that his body could not move. Although the golden body was immune to all damage, it was not immune to control. That's not right. This Hydra is no ordinary 100,000-year soul beast. Tang San was shocked. It has at least 500,000 years of cultivation. That's equivalent to half a deep-sea demon whale. Moreover, this control seemed to be coming from 7 of the Hydra's heads. Each head was emitting an intense black light. Haha, human soul master, you think you can fight against the 4 of us by yourself? The Hydra let out a sinister laugh. In my soul stone domain, you human soul master's soul power will be petrified. There's no way to defend against it, unless your cultivation is stronger than mine. You think I'm trying to heal him, but I'm actually borrowing the power of Second Brother's domain. This domain is too strong for me to use alone. The Hydra let out a hearty laugh as it finished speaking. The petrification of soul power was countless times stronger than the petrification of the body. Tang San was shocked when he sensed that he could barely use his soul power. He had underestimated the strength of these soul beasts. They're too strong. At this moment, De Ming and Er Ming let out another furious roar. The Inferno Devil Centipede and the Onyx Demon Tiger-Striped Rhinoceros heavily injured them once again, causing them to collapse into the lake. Then, the Inferno Devil Centipede and the Onyx Demon Tiger-Striped Rhinoceros charged at Tang San, who was unable to move due to the petrification of his soul power. The huge centipede's tail smashed towards Tang San. The Onyx Demon Tiger-Striped Rhinoceros charged at Tang San. Tang San's pupils contracted. Right at this moment, a cyan-colored longsword suddenly streaked across the sky and slashed towards a raging flame Devil Fiend Centipede's tail. The two collided, and the Inferno Devil Centipede's tail was cut off, but the green longsword was also sent flying. Tang San was stunned. That green longsword? But the Onyx Demon Tiger-Striped Rhinoceros was still charging at Tang San. Wang Feng, who was rushing over from afar, had a bad feeling. He could not block two attacks by himself. The Xiaming Flying Sword was the fastest and had the longest attack range. The speed at which they rushed over was also extremely fast. 14 pairs of black wings appeared on its back. Xiao San is the main character. Is he really dead? Wang Fengxin felt a chill in his heart. He wanted to use his soul-devouring blood wings to teleport over. After his soul rings had been greatly improved, Wang Feng was able to control his teleportation position. It was just that he was not completely accurate. He might not be able to land there, but he could only give a try. But at this moment, Wang Feng suddenly gave up on this idea, because he saw a figure suddenly emerge from the golden trident. Damn, is that the sea god's projection? Wang Feng was stunned. It was a tall and sturdy figure. He was wearing golden armor and looked extremely handsome. But his face could not be seen clearly as it was covered by a layer of fog. But compared to the 1,001st steps, his aura was much more powerful. What a powerful aura. It's at least a demigod's aura. How can a projection be so powerful? Wang Feng looked at the sea god's projection. It's so good to have a backer. At the same time, the sea god's projection suddenly let out a majestic voice. Wang Feng could not hear clearly. He sensed it with his spiritual power. Obviously, the projection should be communicating with Tang San. I am a sea god. I have dominated the Douluo world's sea for more than 1,000 years. I created the yellow, golden 13 halberds and swept the 4 seas. I will now teach you 3 moves. I will only use them once. The first move, calm, storm. Wang Feng's spiritual perception wasn't very clear about the intermittent voice, but made Wang Feng's eyes light up. Interesting. Wang Feng narrowed his eyes and rushed over while watching attentively. The reward is so trashy. I will learn it secretly. Is there a problem? The golden 13 halberds. It's a divine skill. It's better than the one I created. 3 moves. With my wisdom, it's not a problem to learn 3 moves. P.S. Begging for votes. Chapter 856. How could a soul master's matter be called stealing? 1. How could a soul master's matter be called stealing? Wang Feng felt that this shouldn't be called stealing. It should be learning openly, looking at the sea god in front of him, who was covered in armor and had a handsome face that looked like a mosaic. His heart was burning. Divine skill, Wang Fengxin thought. Even if the divine skill had a limited release condition and the power would be reduced by a few % if he stole it, it was still a divine skill. After all, it was a skill created by the sea god after thousands of years of roaming the ocean. It was much stronger than the skill that he had created half-heartedly and was still perfecting. It wasn't that he wanted to compete with the sea god. After all, the sea god was still a god. His skill wouldn't be trash. He was only a rank 80 soul master. He definitely couldn't compare to this big shot who had lived for thousands of years. Wang Feng stared at it without blinking. At this moment, the sea god's shadow appeared. The 4 soul beasts were clearly intimidated by him. The aura of a god, even if it was just a shadow, was not something that they, who had lived for hundreds of thousands of years, could compare to. The four soul beasts trembled slightly. The strongest among them, the nine-headed snake, had snake liquid flowing out of its mouths. It crawled on the ground, and its huge body was like a sieve. But Wang Feng knew that these 400,000-year soul beasts weren't that simple. Their boss was probably that million-year soul beast. With such a powerful soul beast as their boss, and with such a savage and evil nature, they would probably be bold enough to attack the sea god's projection. At this moment, the sea god's shadow suddenly stepped forward. Boundless blue-gold light rose from under his feet like the sea. Immediately after, the sea god's shadow used a strange posture and shook the sea god's trident in his hand, releasing rays of blue-gold light. Each ray of light condensed into a blue-gold halo in the void. Then, the sea god's shadow gently circled the trident and pointed at the four soul beasts. Those blue-gold lights seemed to have eyes and flew towards the four soul beasts. Seeing this, the four soul beasts finally couldn't hold back. With the cultivation of 100,000-year soul beast, they didn't want to sit still and wait for death. Almost immediately, he launched an attack. Among them, the seven poisons deer was injured by Tang's sand. The antlers on its head only released a faint black light, which flowed into the nine-headed snake next to it. It was a skill that was enhanced by self-sacrifice. At the same time, the nine-headed snake let out furious roars. Its 9 heads touched a mouthful of thick, stinky black mud, and then merged into one. It formed an enormous stream of black mud that shot towards the sea god's projection. It was the same for the flaming demonic centipede in the air. Its 100-meter-long body suddenly twisted, emitting a dazzling brilliance. Finally, the sea god's shadow, the black demon tiger-striped rhinoceros, stood on the lake, and the giant horn on its head shone with a dazzling light. It leaped high into the air, and its body was extremely agile. It chopped down with its head, and the giant horn turned into a black blade that was several meters long. It slashed towards the sea goddess. Wang Feng stared at it intently, wanting to see just what this indefinite storm was. This name was rather poetic. Could it be that the sea god was also a poet? At the same time, Wang Feng unleashed his spiritual power. He watched the sea god's every move and the energy undulations in its body when it used the sea god's trident. Every posture and action seemed to be replayed in his mind countless times. In the next moment, 3 attacks were unleashed, and each attack was capable of killing a tidal Douluo in an instant. However, the sea god's shadow wasn't afraid at all. It shook its trident slightly, and the bluish-gold halo that surged out caught the 3 attacks. The moment the blue-golden halo was trapped, it began to spin rapidly, forming a dazzling light curtain in the center. Then, it directly washed away the 3 attacks, as if it was washing away stains with a cleaning solution, cleanly swallowing them up. Then, it expanded and landed on the 4 soul beasts of different sizes. When the bluish-gold halo trapped the 4 soul beasts, they seemed to have been immobilized. Their bodies shrunk violently. They roared in pain. The unpredictable storm is the only control-type skill in the 13 halberds. Once it hits the enemy, they won't be able to move for 8 seconds, no matter how strong they are. Even God-rank soul beasts can be restrained for 3 seconds. The intermittent voice came from the sea god's mental communication again. Wang Feng could tell even without the sea god's explanation. This was a powerful control-type skill. A god skill was naturally extraordinary. Apart from restricting, the halo formed by the unpredictable storm also had a certain defensive ability. After it restrained the enemy, it could also hurt them. It could be said to be both offensive and defensive. An 8-second restriction was Wang Feng's longest control-type soul skill. Wang Feng's strongest control-type soul skill, Spirit Seal, could only restrain the enemy for 3 to 4 seconds. It also had a certain defensive ability. It could seal part of the enemy's attack. However, after it was sealed, it couldn't restrain the enemy. This unpredictable storm negated the enemy's attack. At the same time, it restricted the enemy and had a certain offensive ability. Indeed, it couldn't be compared. This bluish-gold halo can't be defended or destroyed. Unless it's a godly skill of the same level, it might be possible. Wang Feng pondered. However, the prerequisite is that it can hit the target. Even if this bluish-gold halo has tracking abilities, there's still a chance that the enemy can dodge it. However, since it's a godly skill, normal tidal Douluo and 100,000-year soul beasts can't dodge it. Such a godly skill was usually instantaneous. It took a very short time to accumulate power. Furthermore, it was very fast. It could be said to be crowd control. I think I know how to do it, Wang Feng chuckled. There's still 2 more moves. There's no rush. However, this godly skill was unleashed by the sea god using the trident as a medium. The trident was a godly weapon. It contained some godly power. It also had the light of the sea god. Wang Feng could tell that this godly skill was related to the light of the sea god. It was easy to learn it, but not easy to unleash it, unless he used the trident too. Wang Feng didn't think too much. He continued to look at the sea god. The second move, eternal space. After hearing this name, Wang Fengxin thought that the sea god's name was poetic. However, it had nothing to do with its actual effect. To describe it in 3 words, it was fake. It gave people a feeling that they didn't understand, but felt that it was very powerful. His own naming style was more practical. It was often named according to the effect of the skill. It was simple, crude, and useful. End of chapter. Chapter 857. With this move, the sea god suddenly leaped high into the air. The trident in his hand seemed to emit light that filled the sky. In this boundless blue-gold light, all kinds of halberd shadows were formed in an instant. In Wang Feng's eyes, it was like a martial arts expert was practicing martial arts in the air. Different halberd lights were scattered through the trident and landed on the 4 soul beasts. A group attack skill. The range wasn't big, but it could surround all 4 soul beasts. Wang Feng frowned slightly. The sea god was too fast. Although Wang Feng could see it clearly just by looking, the sea god was too fast. He could see clearly, but each halberd light contained different stances and energy circulation methods. There were all kinds of special auras. It was a little difficult. Wang Feng forcefully memorized it and went through it in his mind as he comprehended it. He wasn't Tang San after all. Tang San was much easier. In comparison, although the sea god only demonstrated each move once, all the information of each move would flow into Tang San's mind every time it was demonstrated. As the successor of the sea god, it was equivalent to giving Tang San a martial arts manual and demonstrating it again. It was much easier to learn. Wang Feng, who learned it secretly, didn't have any martial arts manuals. He could only study it through the other party's demonstration. Unpredictable Storm was still okay, but this move was more troublesome. With this move, countless halberd marks suddenly appeared on the 4 soul beast bodies. Black blood spurted out, and the weakest 7 poisons deer was almost on the verge of death. The other 3 soul beasts were heavily injured by this halberd light. The raging inferno fiend centipede in midair had half of its body chopped off and fell from the sky. The black demon tiger, striped rhinoceros, huge horn, was also cut in half. The hydra was the strongest, but 3 of its heads were cut off at this moment, and blood spurted out. For powerful evil soul beasts were instantly killed in a single strike. Wang Feng's eyes widened as he watched the blue-gold light sweep across the entire place. His current strongest group attack soul skill, the Ice Flame Fury Lotus, couldn't do this. It was much inferior because the bodies of these 4 evil soul beasts were stronger than tidal Douluo. The most important thing was that they didn't accumulate power. The Ice Flame Angry Spirit Lotus needed to store energy, and its only advantage was that the Ice Flame Angry Spirit Lotus had a huge range. It far surpassed 1,000 years leisurely. The innate 5 directional domains black and white light cannons were also considered an AoE skill, but they weren't this powerful. In terms of offensive strength, only the 3 consecutive Extreme Dragon Falcons could severely injure these soul beasts in an instant. The Xianming Flying Sword was also fine, but he needed to execute the 7-killing sword art in advance. The only thing that could surpass him was the Pangu Axe. None of the four-soul beasts should be able to withstand a single blow from the axe. Moreover, these were all single-target attacks. However, this 1,000 years of leisure was an AoE skill. There was no comparison. I can modify these 3 moves of the 13 golden halberds into the 3 moves of the god-slaying spear. It shouldn't be a problem. Wang Fengxin pondered. I just need some time. Since he wanted to secretly learn it, he definitely couldn't use a halberd. Since he did not have a halberd, he could only rely on comprehending the core concepts of these 3 moves and modify them on the god-slaying spear. If it was in the past, it would not have been so easy to learn and improve such a divine skill. No one would look in that direction. However, Wang Feng was not the same as before. The last move, Never Return, severely injuring 4 soul beasts in an instant, seemed to be a piece of cake for the sea god. It wasn't worth his attention at all. Without saying a word, he raised the sea god's trident. The trident was like a dragon as it struck towards the 9-headed snake that still had 7 heads. The sea god's trident turned into a blue-gold shadow and landed on the 9-headed snake's body. After being restricted by the unpredictable storm and severely injured by the 1,000 years of leisure, this 9-headed snake had no room to resist at all. Almost instantly, the 7 heads were all cut off by the blue-gold halberd. Its entire body began to explode. Countless pieces of flesh and blood flew everywhere. The terrifying attack power was astonishing. Without any effort, the 9-headed snake was killed in an instant. It even had a huge amount of energy left. It was conceivable that even the deep-sea demon whale would lose half of its life if it was hit by this move, even if it didn't die. It's a powerful single-target attack. Wang Feng thought to himself, it's much stronger than my heaven and earth thunderstorm. With Wang Feng's current strength, his heaven and earth thunderstorm could barely injure the deep-sea demon whale at sea. His red soul rings were now stronger than before. However, the power of the heaven and earth thunderstorm was more related to the power of heaven and earth. The lightning that was triggered by the deep-sea demon whale was the power of the deep-sea demon whale. Wang Feng used the heaven and earth thunderstorm to attack himself, causing him to be severely injured. From this point of view, even if the absolute wind and lightning spear wasn't a divine skill, it wasn't too bad either. If the enemy was weak, the heaven and earth thunderstorm couldn't be used. It wasn't like the Never Return. Its damage was explosive and stable. Wang Feng estimated that he could barely match it unless he used the Pangu Axe's violent blood attack. However, the violent blood attack was too dangerous. In the sea god's realm, only a demigod like Bibi Dong could withstand the attack of the sea god's silhouette and survive after activating his martial soul true body. Even Thousand Dao Flow and Possessi would probably die from this attack. It's a pity for this soul beast. This 9-headed snake is at least 500,000 years old. With Little Sand's current body, he shouldn't be able to absorb it, right? His soul rings don't even add up to 500,000 years. Wang Feng shook his head secretly. After observing these 3 moves, Wang Fengxin had a rough idea. He quickly analyzed and comprehended these 3 moves in his mind. If there was a progress bar, these 3 moves would increase rapidly. At this moment, Wang Feng was approaching the lake. At this moment, the sea god's projection seemed to be a little weak after performing the 3 moves. The projection started to flicker, as if it would disappear at any time. Learn these 3 moves well, and you'll be safe. The sea god communicated with Tang San mentally. Also, leave this place quickly. A million-year soul beast has been born here. It's very strange. It's not something you can fight against now. All right. How much have you learned? The sea god asked after thinking for a while. About 70 to 80%. Tang Sin hurriedly said, a little ashamed. I'm slow-witted. I didn't learn everything. Not bad, very good. The sea god's dignified voice didn't blame him. Instead, it sounded a little surprised. It seems that I didn't choose the wrong person to be able to learn so quickly. Child, work hard and use my sea god's trident well. Don't let it be covered in dust. After saying that, the sea god suddenly looked into the distance and gradually disappeared. He was looking in the direction where Wang Feng was coming from. Wang Fengxin's heart jumped. Did the sea god find out that I secretly learned it? End of chapter. Chapter 858. However, Wang Feng wasn't afraid. After all, he had passed the second trial of the sea god, and he had secretly learned 3 of the sea god's techniques. Was the sea god going to take revenge on him? That was impossible. At this moment, the sea god disappeared. Only then did Tang Sin come to his senses. Wait, what did the sea god just say? A million-year soul beast? There were million-year soul beasts in the great Stardow forest? Cold sweat was pouring down Tang San's back. Could it be that these 4 soul beasts were the subordinates of the million-year soul beast? After withdrawing his golden trident, Tang San immediately turned to Deming and Ming, who were floating above the lake. Deming, Ming. Xiao Wu flew out of her soul ring and arrived beside the 2 soul beasts. Blood was flowing down the sky azure bull python's body, staining the lake even more crimson. Ming's situation wasn't any better. The black demon tiger, striped rhinoceros's horn attack had left a gaping wound several meters long on Ming's chest. It was an extremely gruesome sight. Xiao Wu, you've been resurrected? Deming murmured in a low voice. That's great. We can die in peace now. Ming looked at Xiao Wu's projection, and his large eyes were stained with murky blood. But why do you seem a little weak? Xiao Wu's face was covered in tears as she shook her head. No, I haven't completely resurrected yet. Let's not talk for now. I still have some spirit herbs here. Let's see if they can help you recover. Let's leave this place first. Otherwise, a million-year soul beast might attack us. Tang Sin pulled out a few spirit herbs from his 100 treasures pouch. However, both Deming and Ming heaved a faint sigh. Their injuries and powers were extremely weak. How could ordinary spirit herbs be enough to heal them? A million-year. Deming's lips twitched. Was that really the case? When that pillar of light had appeared, they had sensed that something was very wrong. We can't leave. Ming pointed a finger at Xiao Wu. Xiao Wu, take Tang San and leave this place. Aside from that million-year soul beast, several very powerful human soul masters have also come to the Great Stardow Forest. However, they didn't find this place. Their target should be me and Boss. Tang San was stunned when he heard that. Powerful human soul masters, could they be the titled Douluo of the Martial Soul Alliance? Thinking of this, Tang San broke out in a cold sweat again. Only then did he recall that back in the Great Stardow Forest, those people from the Spirit Hall had come to capture Xiao Wu, and they had known about Deming and Ming. No, we can't just leave like this. Xiao Wu looked at Deming and Ming with tears in her eyes. At this time, Tang San suddenly frowned, and his expression softened a little. We really don't have to go. Someone can save you. Hearing this, Ming was stunned. At this time, a figure flew over from afar, and a clear voice sounded. Little 3, not bad. You discover me in advance? Wang Feng flew over from a distance, his black wings flapping. Like a stream of light, he appeared in front of Tang San. Deming and Ming were completely dumbstruck upon hearing this. Wang Feng, it's actually you. I didn't expect to see you before I die. Ming was so excited that the wound on his chest tore open again. The last time you appeared, you flew away before I even had a chance to fight you. Sigh, I won't be able to fight you this time. Ming heaved a feeble sigh as he spoke. Last time, Wang Feng had appeared to fight the Phantom Douluo because he had fled very quickly. However, with Ming's current power, Wang Feng could easily beat him to a pulp with his second gear. Big Brother Feng, you really didn't die. Xiao Wu stared blankly for a moment before circling around Wang Feng. A smile appeared on her face as she said, It seems that Big Brother was right. Even if we really die one day, we will die. Even if we die today, you probably won't die either. We still have a lot of things to ask you. It's a good thing Rong Rong and the others aren't here. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to escape. Wang Feng chuckled. You'll all become gods in the future. So how could you die? Wang Feng knew that Tang San and Ming had to have a lot of things to ask him, most likely about him becoming a Pope-Tiff. However, Wang Feng naturally couldn't tell them this at a time like this. The golden lotus in his hand rotated, and golden light instantly enveloped Deming and Erming. In that instant, Wang Feng's brows furrowed slightly. These two beasts had sustained significant injuries. They were only slightly better than the three whale sharks, who had been beaten half to death by the devil whale. Back when he was at rank 79, it had taken Wang Feng several months to heal those three beasts. Now that he was at rank 80, it would most likely be very difficult for him to heal Deming and Erming in a short time. It would be easier to protect them. After all, they had been attacked by four extremely powerful 100,000-year-soul beasts, and they weren't ordinary 100,000-year-soul beasts. The attacks of these soul beasts were extremely corrosive to the mind and body. Furthermore, even though the Golden Lotus could quickly heal Deming and Erming's injuries, bursts of black qi soon began to emerge from their wounds, and they began to worsen. It was as if they had been inflicted with a special buff. I'll use the light of the sea god to see if I can expel the black qi from their wounds. Tang Xin looked at Deming and Erming's wounds, and a beam of bluish golden light suddenly erupted from the core of his golden trident. As the light of the sea god fell, the black qi began to disintegrate, and the wounds began to heal again. Seeing this, Tang San's heart relaxed slightly. The light of the sea god had the effect of destroying demons and evil. It should be very easy to expel this black qi. However, just as Tang San heaved a sigh of relief, countless black qi emerged from Deming and Erming's wounds again. How could this be? Xiao Wu cried out. Wang Feng frowned slightly. These four soul beasts should have been given a special attack. Otherwise, they wouldn't be like this. It was a bit similar to the attack special effect of the god-killing spear. The wounds couldn't be healed and hurt the soul. But this black qi was a kind of maggot. He was afraid that he could only kill the owner of the evil black qi. As for whether the white lotus could purify it or not, Wang Fengxin wasn't sure. At this moment, a faint voice came from afar. My evil spirit, demonic qi, is not something that you, who is not even a demigod, can expel with an incomplete divine light. This voice was clear and cold, with a hint of arrogance. It seemed to be calm, but there was a sense of contempt. In an instant, Tang San was stunned. Even Wang Feng was startled because he couldn't sense the source of the voice. Either the other party's spiritual power was too strong, or the other party's strength was stronger than his and had a special defensive detection method. Could it be that million-year soul beast? Not long after, a figure suddenly walked out from afar. He was wearing a blood-red robe, and his face was calm. He looked to be less than 30 years old. His blood-red hair fluttered in the wind, and there was a vermilion between his eyebrows, which made him look a little demonic. He was young and handsome. As the young man walked slowly, it seemed as if the world had become a little more evil. The blood-black qi in the air became thicker. End of chapter. Chapter 859. Human? Tang Sen looked at the young man who had walked out of nowhere in a daze. No, it's not a human. It's a soul beast. Xiao Wu whispered. I'm afraid it's the kind of soul beast that can transform into a human after going through 9 heavenly tribulations. Hearing this, Tang San sucked in a breath of cold air. He had heard about it from Xiao Wu or possessing more than once. After a soul beast cultivated to 100,000 years, it would experience a heavenly tribulation every once in a while. The heavenly tribulation was extremely dangerous, and it was a natural chasm for a 100,000-year soul beast. Because of this, some soul beasts thought that they couldn't pass the heavenly tribulation, so they recultivated and transformed into a human. Some soul beasts were proud and wanted to forcefully pass the heavenly tribulation. Many powerful soul beasts died because of this, but every time they passed it, their strength would increase greatly, but the power of the next heavenly tribulation would be even more serious. Possessi had said that the deep-sea demon whale king could also transform into a human because it had gone through 9 heavenly tribulations and was only one step away from transforming into a dragon. In that case, the young man in front of him was at least as strong as the deep-sea demon whale king, or even stronger. The young man in blood-red clothes was tall and emitted a cold, and evil aura. His eyes were pitch black as he scanned the surroundings of the lake. There was only a lump of minced meat on the ground of the nine-headed snake that had exploded. Above the minced meat was a scarlet soul ring. In the center of the minced meat was a soul bone. As for the other three soul beasts, they were on the verge of death. At this moment, they were all crawling on the ground, emitting black gas. They only had a few breaths left. The young man was expressionless, as if he had already expected this. Finally, his gaze landed on Tang San and Wang Feng. His gaze swept over to Ming, Ming, and Xiao Wu. At this moment, Wang Feng also sized up this young man and was a little surprised. Could this be my million-year soul beast? Just this? A man? Looking at this aura, could be that DT. Wang Feng didn't know much about the characters in the later books of Douluo's original work. He had only heard of the few popular ones. As for the others, Wang Feng couldn't even remember the later generations of Shrek's 7 monsters. He could barely remember the names of the main characters. Who are you? Are these your men? Tang San's whole body tensed up as he looked at the young man. This young man gave him an extremely dangerous feeling. This feeling was no less than when he faced the demon whale. It's been a long time since I saw a living human. The young man did not answer. Instead, he let out a long sigh. With his hands behind his back, he said pretentiously, "The aura on your bodies is really pure. Especially this human." The young man looked at Wang Feng, and the darkness in his eyes flickered. At this point, the young man laughed. There's actually a human soul master who obtained the inheritance of a divine seat. Their deaths were worth it. Tang San felt a chill in his heart when he heard that. Xiao San, Xiao Wu, leave with Ming and Ming. Wang Feng took 2 steps forward and said slowly while looking at the young man. But the injuries on Ming's body. Tang San frowned and glanced at the young man. If the black qi could not be expelled, the injuries on the 2 great Ming dynasty's bodies would not be able to recover. Could it be that he had to drag Ming and Ming along? Tang San did not have that much strength. I didn't expect that humans and soul beasts would still have such feelings. A strange light flashed in the young man's eyes. This is really amazing. How about this? I'll spare the 2 soul beasts' lives and absorb the evil spirit demonic qi in their bodies. As for you 2 human soul masters, be obedient and let me eat you. What do you think? After saying that, the young man suddenly took a step forward. An invisible pressure pressed down on Tang San, as if the sky was collapsing. The surrounding air seemed to be squeezed out, and there were bursts of sounds of air explosions. Tang San groaned. Xiao Wu's shadow became more transparent and directly went into Tang San's soul rings. Several soul rings gradually rose from Tang San's body to resist the terrifying pressure. I don't think so. Wang Feng looked at the young man in blood-red clothes. The young man's aura was slightly stronger than the demon whale's, and it was very strange. The young man laughed. Then there's no other way. It's rare for me to be kind. You don't cherish it, but once my evil spirit demonic qi comes into contact with you, in this world, other than God's, only I can absorb and remove it. Although these 4 are very weak, I gave them this evil spirit demonic qi. Other than true gods, any soul beast or life form that comes into contact with it will only end up dead. Wang Fengxin thought, this million-year soul beast is even more pretentious than me. He's not as handsome as me, but he's so good at pretending. Hearing this, Tang San frowned slightly. He used the light of the sea god again and sprinkled it on the 2 Ming brothers. However, although the black qi retreated quickly, it still surged up again. It's useless. The young man shook his head. I don't want to destroy your bodies so that it won't affect the taste. So, I don't want to do it, but if there's no other way, then I can only destroy the flowers. Wang Feng looked at the young man and sighed. If you don't know how to use words, don't use them. When you become my soul ring in the future, I will teach you how to speak human language when I have time. Hearing this, the young man was startled. Then he laughed out loud. Tang San was stunned. What is Brother Feng thinking? Soul ring? Does he want to kill this million-year soul beast? Wait, it doesn't seem impossible. When Brother Feng was on the sea god's island, He could suppress Bibidon and force Bibidon to retreat from the sea god's island. But a million-year-soul beast. Just as he was thinking, Wang Feng turned around and looked at the two Ming brothers. After thinking for a moment, the white lotus in his hand turned slightly. Under the circulation of his soul power, a white light enveloped the two of them. The next moment, wisps of blood-black qi were quickly crushed from the two Ming brothers' bodies and finally assimilated into endless white light. Seeing this, the young man was suddenly stunned. He looked at Wang Feng and was a little lost for a moment. What's going on? Where's my evil spirit demonic qi? Wang Fengxin also breathed a sigh of relief. Sure enough, I should have believed in the white lotus. What bullshit evil spirit demonic qi? It's nothing under the purification of the white lotus. Little San, take the two Ming brothers and leave first. Wang Feng frowned. Tang San hurriedly nodded when he heard this. Tang San still remembered that white lotus. Back then, it was this white lotus that had pulled them out of that strange mystic realm. Thinking of this, Tang San was secretly shocked. Even if his strength had not reached the level of a tidal Douluo, and he had not completely inherited the sea god's mountain, it was not complete. But Brother Feng's white lotus didn't even have a soul ring, and it could directly purify the evil spirit demonic qi. Didn't this mean that this white lotus was of a higher level than sea god's light? Leave. The young man smiled. You think you can leave? After saying that, the young man took another step forward. In an instant, the whole world seemed to darken. A boundless domain instantly covered the entire world. Tang San only felt an invisible force, as if it had sealed the space. This was far beyond his imagination. It was somewhat similar to the nine-headed snake's soul stone domain, but it was far more terrifying. Not only was his soul power condensed, but his vast spiritual power was also condensed. In the next moment, a green flag suddenly spun out from Wang Feng's side. It was the green lotus flag. The green light enveloped Tang San and the two soul beasts. Tang San suddenly felt the pressure on his body disappear. However, this cyan light only covered a range of 100 meters. It wouldn't be very difficult to escape from it. End of chapter. Chapter 860. Apart from the green light, Tang Wulin was at his mercy. The young man's domain was too strong. Tang San couldn't even release his blue-silver domain to defend himself. The young man frowned again when he saw this. Little San, lend me your golden trident. I'll cover your escape, Wang Feng suddenly said. Tang San was stunned. Use it? How? But Tang San didn't question it. He tossed the golden trident to Wang Feng. Tang San didn't know what Wang Feng was going to do, but he chose to trust him. Brother Feng might be able to wield the golden trident, but he didn't have the approval of the sea god's island. He shouldn't be able to wield it. Unless Brother Feng has already passed the second test of the sea god's island, Tang San seemed to have thought of something. As expected, after leaving Tang San's hands, the golden trident regained its weight of 108,000 jin. It landed in Wang Feng's hands and let out a roar, causing the earth to tremble. In the next moment, Wang Feng's aura surged. He turned into a streak of light and stepped into the air. He moved his body in a strange position and shook the golden trident in his hand. Although the golden trident in Wang Feng's hand weighed 100,000 jin, Wang Feng could even wield a heavy silver pillar 5 times the weight of a golden trident, let alone a mere 100,000 jin golden trident. More importantly, Wang Feng had passed the second test of the sea god's island and received the approval of the sea god. Therefore, he was qualified to wield the golden trident. A bright light shone from the center of the trident. A bluish-gold halo shot out from the center of the trident and flew toward the young man in the distance. Tang San couldn't help but exclaim, "That's the sea god's 13 halberds. Unpredictable storm." Tang San Xin could not help but be shocked. I haven't even mastered it yet. When did Brother Feng learn it? Is Brother Feng the illegitimate son of the sea god in the mortal world? Of course, that was just a thought. Tang San couldn't really believe it. But this was simply too shocking. One had to know that it hadn't been long since the sea god had appeared. He hadn't even fully comprehended the 3 moves that he had used. not to mention performing it in such a complete manner. However, Tang San could tell that Brother Feng's unpredictable storm was not as relaxed and smooth as Sea God's. Clearly, this was his first time using it, but it was the real unpredictable storm. The slightly dim bluish-gold halo fell toward the blood-red, clothed young man, causing him to be stunned. The power of God? The young man let out a loud roar, as if he could not believe that this was coming from a human. In reality, he had borrowed the power of the sea god's trident. The young man's roar was very strange. It sounded like the roar of a dragon, filled with an extremely ruthless, evil aura. In the next moment, the young man had already condensed 2 blood-red balls of light in his palm, and he threw them directly at the blue halo. However, it was at this moment that the power of the sea god's divine skill was displayed. Attack and defense in one, strong control. The moment the blood-red balls of light merged with the halo, the bluish-gold halo gushed out a curtain of light and directly swallowed the 2 balls of light. Then, the halo fell on the young man without slowing down. The moment the halo fell on him, the young man felt a terrifying force sealing him. Even the domain that he had released froze a little. "Let's go," Wang Feng shouted loudly. Although he had already studied and comprehended the unpredictable storm in his mind, it was his first time using it after all, and he was still not very familiar with it. The effect would be greatly reduced. Coupled with the fact that the opponent was very strong, he could only freeze him for 4 seconds at most. Tang San suddenly came to his senses. At this time, Deming and Erming's injuries were somewhat better because the black gas had been purified by the White Lotus. Coupled with the remaining power of the Golden Lotus, they immediately got up and ran away with Tang San. The young man was controlled by the unpredictable storm. He could not even extend his domain to follow Tang San, and could only watch helplessly. Wang Feng did not use the last 2 moves. The last 2 moves would probably take some time to comprehend and study. His progress should be about 90%. He still cannot use them. However, the unpredictable storm alone was enough to make Deming and Erming leave temporarily. Deming and Erming were extremely weak now, so naturally, he could not let them leave alone. Otherwise, Wang Feng would have asked Little Three to stay and kill this million-year soul beast together. After all, the power of 2 people was always stronger than that of 1 person. "Do you think you can run away like this?" The young man looked at Wang Feng coldly. Wang Feng smiled and threw the golden sand trident in Tang San's direction. He had borrowed this thing to use a divine skill, like unpredictable storm, to forcefully control the other party. If he really wanted to use it, the god-slaying spear or the Pangu axe were much better than the golden sand trident. Wang Feng looked at the young man and suddenly said, "Do you know Di Tian?" Hearing this, the young man was stunned. He looked at Wang Feng with a strange expression. "You know Di Tian? What is your relationship?" "He is my brother," Wang Feng said. Suddenly, the young man laughed. There was a mocking smile on his face. "You humans always like to think that you are smart. Di Tian, if you can be brothers with such a weak fellow, it seems like you are not that strong." After saying that, the young man roared. Countless blood-black gas rose from his body. His aura increased exponentially. In less than 4 seconds, the bluish-gold halo on his body was destroyed. "Wait for me to kill you first. After that, I will go and kill your brother who is still in closed-door cultivation." The young man laughed coldly. "I am not Di Tian. My name is Long Xie. Human, if you know Di Tian, then I will not let you go. Although I do not know how a mere human like you knows the king of the black dragons, Wang Feng." He wanted to get some information from the young man. He did not expect to find out something incredible. This Long Xie should be created by the system, right? Because it was not mentioned in the original novel. And from the looks of it, Long Xie's strength was not simple. There were many types of 100,000-year soul beasts. Wang Feng knew that Di Tian was the king of soul beasts. He had the bloodline of a true dragon. Even the deep-sea demon whale was not as strong as Di Tian. However, Wang Feng did not know much about Di Tian's background. He only knew that Di Tian was very strong. Run if you can't win. Wang Feng looked at Long Xie and thought to himself. There was nothing he could do about it. Wang Feng didn't think that he could defeat a million-year-soul beast whose strength was unknown. He should have a chance if he used the Panga axe. Wang Feng felt that Long Xie's strength should be above the demigod BB Dawn. He knew it from his tone. He did not even care about Di Tian. The deep-sea demon whale was probably nothing in his eyes. Why did the system create such a thing? Wang Feng was speechless. He did not have to ask for a million-year soul beast. He could have asked for a 900,000-year soul beast. The next time he checked in, his soul ring would be upgraded to a million-year soul beast. Wouldn't that be the same? What should he do now? At this moment, in the distance, a group of people from the Martial Soul Hall was approaching in the direction that Tang San left with Deming and Deming. The leader of the group was BB Dawn. P.S. There are 3 or 4 more chapters tonight. End of this chapter. Chapter 861. Inside the Blood-Red Lake. Blood-black fog made this place look like hell on earth. The lake waters sparkled with a bloody light, reflecting a strange and frightening scene at this moment. Long Xie stood on the other side of the lake. His eyes were pitch black. He exuded an evil and ferocious aura, which made Wang Feng feel a little weird. Long Xie's aura was extremely pure. It was similar to the Dark Angel's blood pattern power. They were all extremely pure emotional origin energy. Before Wang Feng came, he was already in his best state. Otherwise, he wouldn't have unleashed unpredictable storm. Even with the help of the Golden Trident, it wasn't a skill that could be easily unleashed. It was closely related to one's strength. This million-year soul beast Long Xie made Wang Feng feel that he was as strong as the deep-sea demon whale. He might even be stronger. He might even be a demigod. However, Long Xie shouldn't be an ordinary soul beast. Otherwise, he wouldn't have looked down on Di Tian. Of course, Wang Feng didn't rule out the possibility that Long Xie was just bragging. Wang Feng didn't plan to use Panga's axe directly. If he used Panga's axe now, he might have to use explosive blood. Sometimes, he had no choice but to bleed. His blood would be absorbed by Panga's axe, and more blood would be absorbed. He wanted to test Long Xie's strength first. If he couldn't beat him, he would leave first and think of other ways. The God-slaying spear appeared in Wang Feng's hand. His 7 soul rings flickered slightly. The God-slaying spear's ferocious aura brightened Long Xie's eyes when it appeared. Good spear. Long Xie stared at the black spear in Wang Feng's hand. Human, is this your martial soul? This spear is extraordinary. Long Xie looked at the God-slaying spear with admiration and admiration. Wang Feng smiled. He could roughly guess what was going on with this million-year soul beast. It was very likely that this soul beast was supposed to disappear from his continent. It had disappeared without a trace, but it was possible that under the effects of the system, this soul beast had survived and crossed a hurdle. As he thought about this, Wang Feng felt that the system was cheating him. It wasn't supposed to reward him with a million-year soul beast. This was causing trouble for him. Do you like it? Wang Feng asked. I do, Long Xie replied. Then I'll send you off. Wang Feng grinned. The next moment, he disappeared on the spot without a sound. Without any commotion, he appeared diagonally above Long Xie. Swish, swish. 3 arcs of light slashed down from Wang Feng's feet. Extreme Dragon Falcon Kill. With Wang Feng's current state, his Extreme Dragon Falcon Strike could instantly kill any titled Douluo below rank 98. Even if the 1,000 Dao flow was caught off guard, he would still be hit. After taking 2 moves, he would be severely injured. However, Long Xie seemed to have sensed Wang Feng's attack. He shifted his body slightly when the 3 light blades were about to land on him. Then, he suddenly stretched out his hand. It wasn't a hand, but a blood-golden dragon claw. CICICI. The next moment, Long Xie grabbed the energy blade with his bare hands and crushed it. However, there was only a faint mark on his dragon claw, and he did not suffer any damage. Long Xie didn't seem satisfied. He looked at the faint mark on the dragon claw and muttered, "What? I'm a little rusty." Wang Feng, this guy was really good at pretending. Wang Feng wanted to laugh. Wang Feng had been pretending for more than 10 years. and he had finally met his match in this aspect. Emotion severing. Before it landed, the star core appeared and fused into the god-slaying spear, causing it to radiate a faint aura. The greenish-purple spear light pierced through the clouds and mist, and it carried a fearsome aura as it pierced towards Long Xie. Long Xie placed one hand behind his back, and his dragon claw radiated a blood-golden aura. This time, he was still going to grab it with his bare hands. When the greenish-purple spear light landed on his dragon claw, Long Xie's body jerked slightly. He was a little shocked, but then something even more surprising happened. The greenish-purple spear light, which contained the power of wind and lightning, did not hurt his dragon claw. However, when the god-slaying spear's blade landed on his dragon claw, it left a visible bloody mark. Long Xie was stunned. His eyes turned extremely cold, and his body jerked. His immense strength caused the ground to tremble slightly. The dragon claw that grabbed the god-slaying spear flicked gently, and Wang Feng was sent flying into the air. I'm not used to it. Wang Feng, who was in the air, looked at the bloody mark on the spear tip, sighed, and shook his head. Long Xie, your spear is a little strange. Long Xie sneered. It can even break through my defense. You're only in my human form, and you haven't even used 1/10 of my strength. There was nothing wrong with that. Long Xie was really good at pretending. Wang Feng smiled. Long Xie was in his human form and had not used part of his strength, but there was no way he had not even used 1/10 of his strength. However, Wang Feng seemed to have thought of something. He frowned and looked at Long Xie. What a pity. Although I can hurt you. A confident smile appeared on Long Xie's face. But you're just giving me more power. Your spear contains an extremely strong, murderous aura. Do you know that it's my nourishment? Haha. Great spear, the best spear in the world. Such a divine weapon is a martial soul. What a joke. It shouldn't exist in this world. Long Xie laughed as he spoke. Wang Feng frowned slightly. He had thought of that, but he didn't expect it to be true. Long Xie's strength was extremely strange. Wang Feng put away the god-killing spear, and the Xianming flying swords floated in the air. A Xianming flying sword appeared in his hand. The Xianming armor weighed more than 90,000 pounds. It was close to 50,000 pounds. The Xianming spike could be used as hundreds of weapons, and it could be big or small. You use this to cut off the flaming demonic centipede's tail, right? Long Xie looked at the Xianming flying swords and narrowed his eyes. You're able to control it with your mind power. Even some trash gods in that place might not be able to do it so well. In the next moment, the flying swords flew toward Long Xie. With Wang Feng's current mind power, the Xianming flying swords were the most powerful when they were in their giant form. However, if they were split into 3 smaller swords, it would be difficult for the enemy to defend against them. Clang, clang, clang. In an instant, the Xianming flying swords formed a dense net of swords, and streaks of green light appeared in the air. Every strike caused an earth-shattering sound. The 7-kill sword intent wreaked havoc in the sky, trying to cut Long Xie into pieces. On the ground and on the lake, the cold light from the swords created countless gashes that were dozens of meters long. The blood in the lake churned and created huge waves. End of chapter. Chapter 862. Wang Feng's eyes flashed, and he stomped his left foot lightly. In the next moment, tsunami-like waves that were a few hundred meters tall rose from the lake. They twisted in midair and formed a powerful waterspout. It attacked Long Xie, who was surrounded by several Xianming flying swords. Jade Qilin Tsunami. As the Xianming flying swords weren't soul skills, Wang Feng could use them as he used other soul skills at the same time as his spiritual power was strong enough. He could form an even stronger attack. With all his red soul rings and his spiritual power compressed, Wang Feng's abilities could be said to have reached a peak. There weren't many people in the world who could exchange blows with him anymore. However, Long Xie was still using his dragon claws to attack the Xianming flying swords. He seemed very relaxed, but every attack could destroy the Xianming flying swords and turn them into countless Xianming spikes. He was very strong. However, Wang Feng's spiritual power was too strong. The Xianming spikes that were destroyed immediately reformed into Xianming flying swords. Long Xie frowned as he looked at the water spout that was coming at him. At this moment, he finally reached out with his left hand that was behind his back. In the next moment, a blood-red ball of light that was the size of a glass bead condensed in his left hand. It was similar to the one that resisted the unpredictable storm earlier. Long Xie flicked his finger and flicked the blood-red glass bead out. When the blood-red glass bead met the water spout formed by the Jade Qilin tsunami, it released an intense beam of blood-red light. In midair, blood-red water droplets fell into the lake like a storm. Oomph. These are all small tricks. Long Xie focused his eyes. He drew a streak of blood-red light in the air with his hands and destroyed all the Xianming flying swords. Following this, he roared furiously. His voice contained immense spiritual power, and he cut off Wang Feng's spiritual connection with the Xianming spikes. Countless Xianming spikes pierced into the ground and the surrounding trees at an extremely fast speed. Seeing this, Wang Feng roughly understood Long Xie's abilities. His cultivation might not be higher than the deep-sea demon whales. However, he was much stronger than the deep-sea demon whale in other aspects. For example, his bloodline and his strong body were stronger than the deep-sea demon whales. This gave him the ability to resist Wang Feng's attacks so easily. His spiritual power was also very strong. With a single roar, he could instantly cut off Wang Feng's mental connection to the mysterious underworld spike. As one could imagine, his mental strength was definitely very strong. Long Xie had probably lived for many years. Human, your strength is only SOSO. Your gun is pretty good, but that's it. Long Xie and Long Xie smiled. Next, I will use 1/5 of my strength to capture you within 60 seconds. Wang Feng. In the next instant, Long Xie disappeared as if he'd teleported. Speed. It was an extremely fast speed. It was not teleportation, but a display of extreme speed. Long Xie arrived in front of Wang Feng in the blink of an eye. The blood-gold dragon claw in his hand glowed brightly. God-devouring dragon claw, shouted Long Xie. A blood-red vortex appeared on the golden dragon claw in his mouth. This vortex contained an extremely strong, attractive force. A claw came straight at Wang Feng. Countless trees in the forest behind Wang Feng were uprooted in an instant. Then, they were crushed by the black gold light in the air. Then, they were sucked into Long Xie's claw. Wang Feng only felt his mind shake. The attractive force contained in this attack seemed to be able to directly affect one's mind and soul. This was a double attack. Wang Feng narrowed his eyes. He didn't dodge. Instead, he used the suction force to clench his fist and gather all his strength into it. He punched out. Long Xie was surprised. He was a human soul cultivator. Was he trying to fight him with his body? Was he trying to kill himself? But in the next moment, his expression changed. He only felt a huge force being attracted by his dragon claws, as if it was several times stronger than his own home. The devouring dragon god, annihilating claw, was extremely powerful, and the blood-red vortex could easily suck large soul beasts into its grasp and crush them into smithereens. Even the 2 soul beast kings in the lake could be easily sucked into his hands. It wasn't hard to imagine just how strong the suction force was. But the strange thing was this human soul cultivator didn't dodge. Instead, he used the suction force to throw a punch at Long Xie. The instant the punch landed on the blood-colored vortex, the blood-colored vortex appeared. Long Xie's expression changed. The blood-red vortex exploded. A huge amount of energy came from his claw and tore his clothes to shreds. Cracks spread from his dragon claws all the way to his arms and shoulders. Boom! Time seemed to stop as the 2 of them made contact. There was a violent burst of energy that shook the ground several hundred meters away. The terrifying energy caused the ground to crack open. A spiderweb of cracks that were several dozen meters in diameter appeared. Several seconds later, as if there was a delay, Long Xie was blasted away. He created a huge splash on the surface of the blood-red lake. In the end, he barely managed to stop by the shore, leaving deep footprints on the ground. Long Xie stared at the human soul cultivator in front of him in shock. Was he really a human? Are you really a soul beast? Wang Feng waved his hand. Why are you so weak? Long Xie, he was speechless. Wang Feng smiled. He didn't lose to anyone when it came to showing off. This Long Xie was interesting. To be honest, what was Wang Feng's strongest point? Soul skills? Spirit? Martial soul? Yes, these were all very strong. However, Wang Feng felt that his strongest point was strength. Unparalleled strength. Why? Wang Feng's strength had reached a terrifying level when he unleashed his potential in the raging inferno waves. Back then, when Pangu's axe chopped down, even Bibi Dong couldn't bear it, and his body was about to fall apart. Now that his heart had been reforged, he understood the secret of swordsman. With all the enhancements from his red soul rings, Wang Feng's strength had risen to an extremely exaggerated level. He unleashed the strength of his Xianming armor, which was close to 100,000 kilograms. Wang Feng didn't know how much strength was behind that punch, but it was definitely very strong. He wasn't in first gear right now. He was in his full state, and all his buffs had been activated. His strength was at least 300,000 kilograms. His punch was even stronger than a heavy silver pillar. Furthermore, his strength was concentrated in his punch. It was even more destructive. This was evident from the injuries on Long Xie's arm. Of course, Long Xie didn't expect this. The soul skills that Hui Yuhao had used earlier were nothing to Long Xie. End of chapter. Chapter 863. Soul Beast knew that humans should use soul skills to attack. Therefore, Long Xie had seen and experienced soul skills before, no matter how strong they were. However, he had never seen such strength before. This million-year soul beast was using a human's body to fight him in close combat. Wang Feng might not be able to destroy him, but he could definitely suppress him. Long Xie couldn't attack him with his spatial mirror. Long Xie thought that the soul skill he had used was Wang Feng's limit. He didn't know that Wang Feng was a hexagonal warrior. Wang Feng didn't have any weaknesses or limits. He didn't expect a human like Wang Feng to be so strong. Long Xie wasn't convinced. He charged at Wang Feng again. This time, I'll use 1/5 of my strength. I'll capture you in 60 seconds. Bang! Another wave of energy exploded. It was like a wave of water, and it suppressed everything that was several hundred meters away. Long Xie was sent flying. Wang Feng also took a few steps back. Bang, bang, bang. Then, Long Xie attacked Wang Feng again and again. He seemed to be extremely unconvinced. How could a human be stronger than him? Toward the end, Long Xie's face was red, and his clothes were tattered. He looked at Wang Feng and said in a low voice, "You can't be human. Unless you're a god, a human can't have a body like this. Are you a human that's been transformed from a soul beast?" He couldn't accept this. Wang Feng smiled. "You'll know when you become my soul ring." Long Xie wanted to show off, but he didn't even reveal his true form. Of course, Hui Yuhao wouldn't use his full strength. Wang Feng felt that he wouldn't be able to defeat Long Xie if he revealed his true form. However, he had to wait until Long Xie revealed his true form. Long Xie's eyes flashed with blood-red light. "You want me to become your soul ring? Do you really think you can beat me? You've used your full strength, haven't you? I've only used 1/5 of my strength. Since that's the case, I'll show you half of my strength." Long Xie roared furiously and spat out a beam of black light. His body started to swell, as if he was turning into a dragon. It stopped when it was 3 meters tall. He looked like a half-dragon man. His entire body was covered in blood-golden scales, and his muscles bulged like mountain rocks. A pair of black golden dragon wings grew out of his back. They were engraved with complicated patterns and emitted an extremely evil aura. The thick black fog in the air quickly surged into his body. On his chest, there was a sparkling crystal that looked exceptionally eye-catching. "Why didn't you change back to your original appearance?" Wang Feng asked with a frown. The other party was definitely a dragon. However, the ancient and evil aura it gave off was extremely strange. Lin Fan did not know what kind of dragon it was. If he knew Tian, then he was probably a true dragon as well. You don't deserve to see my true body. Long Xie said coldly. I don't believe that a human like you can compare to a soul beast or me. Wang Feng. Wang Feng looked at Long Xie, and the red lotus in his hand slowly appeared. He held the hellfire in his hand and condensed it on his fist. The evil qi on Long Xie's body was so heavy that it had to bear a lot of karma. The hellfire of the red lotus should be able to greatly reduce his fighting strength. Perhaps Wei Yuhao could really kill him. Long Xie was so reckless and wanted to fight him head-on. Wang Feng was not going to be polite. The hellfire of the red lotus had to come into contact with the enemy. If the hellfire of the hellfire was ignited on the Xianming flying sword, it could severely injure the enemy. However, the Xianming flying sword was too fast. The hellfire of the hellfire could not completely ignite on it. At this moment, Long Xie punched Wang Feng again. Evidently, he wanted to prove his strength. As for the red flower, it seemed to be another martial soul. However, Long Xie was not afraid of it. Boom! This time, Long Xie was still sent flying. However, it was not as exaggerated as the last time. Wang Feng also retreated a lot. Long Xie did not look much bigger after he transformed into a half-dragon. However, his body was filled with explosive strength. However, Wang Feng was always the one who came out on top. This was because Long Xie would be reflected by his body. Hui Yuhao's thorned lotus and Xianming armor could reflect his attacks. Even if Long Xie's body was special, he could not completely negate it. That was why Wang Feng's punch could unleash such an exaggerated effect. After this, Wang Feng looked at Long Xie's palm. There were balls of hellfire of the red lotus burning on it. What is this? Long Xie was a little excited. It can make me feel pain so clearly. Even my soul seems to be trembling. Oh, it feels so good. Wang Feng was speechless. It was Wang Feng's turn to be astonished. Damn, what is this million-year soul beast? It feels good being burned by the hellfire of the red lotus? No, he doesn't have that much karma on him. Wang Feng's eyes flashed with a strange light. This is strange. He has such a thick and evil aura. Logically speaking, he must have killed an astronomical number of living beings. How can the hellfire of the red lotus be so weak? It's as if it's tempering his body. This is too strange. Could it be that Long Xie did not kill many living beings? He doesn't have any karma from killing many living beings? Then where did the pure and dense evil aura on his body come from? Wang Feng could not figure it out. This million-year soul beast was the strangest thing that Wang Feng had encountered in the Douluo world. Did the system really make this happen? Long Xie didn't have much karma on him, so the hellfire of the red lotus didn't have much effect. Instead, it was helping him. It was as if he was tempering his body with the hellfire of the red lotus. Long Xie's life force was so strong that it could withstand such a loss. Most importantly, Wang Feng discovered that the evil aura on Long Xie's body was getting purer as the hellfire of the red lotus burned him. Could it be that this is his origin energy? Does he live, or was he born from it? Wang Feng murmured. If that was the case, Long Xie's origin was not simple. Wang Feng spun the red lotus in his hand and recalled the karmic fire on Long Xie. Wang Feng fell silent as he looked at Long Xie. This was his million-year soul beast. After this round of battle, Wang Feng's heart could be said to have multiplied several times. Strong. Strong indeed. Mysterious. Very mysterious. Wang Feng guessed that Long Xie might be related to the god realm above the Douluo world. Like Tian, Long Xie might have been sleeping here, and his cultivation was gradually increasing. If this had happened in the original book, he might have died during one of the heavenly tribulations. That was why there was no news about him. However, under his constant influence, as well as the system's secret control, the outcome might have been changed. That was why he was in this situation. End of chapter. Chapter 864. He was stuck at rank 80. He could only defeat Long Xie and absorb his million-year soul ring. He could also absorb other 100,000-year soul rings, but that wouldn't be very effective. Once he reached rank 80 and obtained a million-year soul ring, Wang Feng was confident that he would be able to face a god-tier powerhouse. Wang Feng knew that there would be a god-tier battle at the next checkpoint. Long Xie's red lotus karmic fire and god-slaying spear were ineffective against him. Wang Fengxin thought to himself, perhaps I can try the purification effect of the white lotus? However, Wang Feng didn't plan to delay this time. In order to maximize the purification effect of the white lotus, Wang Feng activated his chaotic green lotus true body. 7 scarlet soul rings lit up on his body. Long Xie was a little disappointed that his red lotus karmic fire had been absorbed. He frowned as he looked at the human opposite him. All red soul rings? The last one is an 800,000-year soul ring. It seems to be a god-bestowed soul ring. He's really a human. No wonder he's so strong. A solemn look appeared in Long Xie's eyes. No human body can withstand such an absurd combination of soul rings. He's not a god, but he has a godlike body. Since when did humans have such a powerful being? The last soul ring was red, and there were streaks of golden patterns. It meant that it was close to a million-year soul ring. That martial soul. How many martial souls does this human have? Long Xie looked at the chaotic green lotus that was rising above Wang Feng's head. It actually made his heart palpitate a little. Boom! The green pillar of light shot straight into the clouds. All of the thick black fog and blood qi in the surroundings were cleansed by this green pillar of light. It seems like I have to unleash 90% of my strength, Long Xie said plainly. After he finished speaking, his aura suddenly rose. This time, his body grew bigger again. He went from 3 meters tall to 10 meters tall, then 20 meters, then 30 meters. Finally, he reached 100 meters. He stopped when he was 200 meters tall. His head turned into a blood-red dragon's head. It was swallowing waves of evil aura. His entire body was exuding a blood-gold color, and every scale on his body was rippling with a dazzling luster. Like a heavenly sun energy charger, he was absorbing the invisible energy in the air. The dragon wings on his back were at least 100 meters long, covering the entire sky with a slight flap. True body. This was Long Xie's true body. Clearly, Long Xie was affected by the presence of the Chaos Green Lotus and was forced to reveal his true form. It was a dragon that had never been seen before in history. When one looked at the scarlet golden light, it felt like one would sink into a boundless sea of blood and evil thoughts. With a gentle flap of the dragon wings, a boundless hurricane swept up in the air. The majestic power caused all the trees in the area to be crushed into bits by the hurricane. In comparison, the current Wang Feng was extremely minuscule. As expected, Wang Feng saw Long Xie's true body right away. It was normal for a soul beast of this level to have such a body. His aura was at least several times stronger. Furthermore, after transforming into a true form, all of his attributes would be greatly enhanced. Wang Feng was not surprised. He even felt that the other party might have been hiding part of his strength. Long Xie liked to show off, but he was still very strong. Wang Feng took a deep breath. Meanwhile, on the other side, several kilometers away, Tang San was helping Ming and Air Ming to recover, and he was temporarily staying here. However, the situation was not good because he had encountered people from the Martial Soul Alliance. Haha, Your Highness, it's a piece of cake. A sharp voice sounded. I didn't expect to get 200,000-year soul beasts for free. It's a pity that we didn't catch Tang San and the others at the coastline last time. However, Your Highness is wise. He sensed that there was something strange about this place. Tang San, who was holding the trident, had sensed the martial spirit palace's people at the first moment. Although his blue-silver domain couldn't unleash its full power due to the special and sticky black fog in the Great Stardow Forest, he could still sense the people from the Martial Soul Hall in advance. Dozens of meters away, Tang San held his trident and stared coldly at Pope Bibi Dan and the 4 titled Douluo behind him. Only Gue Ju, Qian Jun, and the 4 titled Douluo were present. This was because their martial soul fusion skill had an extremely powerful domain effect. Bibidon wasn't lacking in power, and with the assistance of these two domains, no one in the Great Stardow Forest was a match for him. Your Highness, how should we deal with them? The group didn't approach from dozens of meters away. They only looked on in silence. Deming and Erming's massive bodies were far too conspicuous. Even the vast sea cosmic shroud couldn't completely conceal them. Tang Sen wanted to leave for a while and use the vast sea cosmic shroud to conceal himself. He wanted to wait for them to get close to Deming and Erming before launching a sneak attack. He wanted to kill a tidal Douluo. However, after thinking about it, he decided against it. If he did that, Deming and Erming would also be killed by Bibidon in an instant. What was the point of that? If that happened, he would also be exposed. Tang Sen didn't think that he could launch a second sneak attack under Bibidon's detection. Bibidon was the Pope of the Martial Soul Hall and a leader of the Martial Soul Alliance. He was the person who countless soul masters worshipped on the continent worshipped, and he had already surpassed rank 99. With such power, he had no chance at all. In fact, Tang Sen suspected that even if the projection of the sea god were to appear again, it might not be able to defeat Bibidon. Tang Sen looked on with an expressionless face as the group approached. Tang Sen, don't hesitate. You go first. Deming and Erming growled. Their target is us. We've just recovered some strength, so we can hold them off for you. You go first and revive Xiao Wu. Tang Sen clenched his fists. He had gone to great lengths to bring Deming and Erming out of the dragon's den. But now, he had entered the tiger's den. Bibidon looked at Tang Sen in the distance with a cold and emotionless look in his eyes. The four titled Douluo didn't dare to say anything and just waited in silence. They were waiting for the Pope's orders. Right at this moment, a massive dragon-shaped creature rose from the ground in the distance. It was emanating a monstrous might. At the same time, a pillar of azure light flashed and shot straight into the clouds. The four titled Douluo were stunned when they saw the pillar of azure light. Bibidon was also stunned. This seems to be Lord Popetiff's martial soul, true body. The chrysanthemum Douluo was shocked. This, in the next moment, Bibidon's calm but slightly trembling voice rang out. Let's go to the front first. Don't worry about them for now. As soon as he finished speaking, he had already disappeared. The four titled Douluo looked at each other and quickly followed after him. Tang Sen also looked at the scene in the distance with a hint of worry in his eyes. P.S. It's a little late, right? In a chapter. Chapter 865. Brother Feng is in danger. Tang San turned to Deming and Erming with a grim expression. What's going on, Tang San? Why didn't the pontiff kill us? Why did she go in that direction instead? Erming was a little perplexed. It wasn't like they hadn't seen these people from the Martial Soul Palace before. Furthermore, the human woman who appeared to be their leader was emanating an extremely powerful aura that was far more powerful than that of the four titled Douluos. Logically speaking, if you wanted to kill them, it would be as simple as eating and drinking. Why did she suddenly leave? The direction they're heading in seems to be the same direction as Wang Feng. Deming turned to the giant dragon in the distance. The battle has most likely reached a critical juncture. That's the true body of a million-year soul beast. It looks like Wang Feng has become a lot more powerful. He can even fight a million-year soul beast to this extent. Erming sat down on the ground and scratched his head. Tang San heaved a faint sigh before telling them about how Wang Feng had become a spy for the Martial Soul Palace. The two kings of the forest were completely flabbergasted upon hearing this. Wang Feng sure is a cunning bastard. Erming's heart was thumping wildly. Doesn't that mean that human woman hates Wang Feng to the core? She didn't kill him last time, and now that Wang Feng is still alive, she's going to tear him to shreds? No wonder she turned a blind eye to the two of us. I thought we were fake 100,000-year soul beasts. Erming's eyes were also filled with concern as he looked into the distance. If we let that human woman lead those four titled Douluos, then Wang Feng will be attacked from both sides. Deming turned to Tang San and said, Go help Wang Feng. Tang San, the two of us will be fine. We won't die anytime soon. Tang San's brows furrowed slightly as he looked at the two soul beasts. He wouldn't die for a while. The aura in this place was so weak. If he left, what would happen if other powerful soul beasts appeared? In their current state, any tens of thousands of year soul beast would be enough to kill them. Furthermore, their life force was constantly fading away. It was quite clear that they wanted Tang San to leave them and go help Wang Feng. No, big brother. With Tang San's strength, he won't be of much help if he goes there. Those 4 titled Douluos are one thing, but that human woman is so powerful that even we're fearful of her. Tang San sighed inwardly. Regardless of whether it was the million-year soul beast or the BB Dawn, they weren't opponents that he could defeat right now. The difference was too great. Even those 4 titled Douluo couldn't be dealt with in a short period of time. In a battle of such peak power, he might be able to barely fight back by relying on Neptune's trident. How about this? At this moment, Deming and Ming exchanged a glance, and both of them could see the determination in each other's eyes. No, Deming, Ming, I won't allow you to do this. At this moment, Xiao Wu flew out from Tang San's soul ring and glared at the two of them. Tang San stared blankly at the two soul beasts and frowned slightly. Tang San, are you really determined to resurrect Xiao Wu? Deming stared at Tang San with a determined look in his eyes. Of course, Tang San replied. I can give up my life for Xiao Wu. All right. Ming rose to his feet and cast his gaze into the distance. Tang San, you're still a few ranks away from becoming a titled Douluo. It might take you a long time to reach those ranks. However, we can bestow our power upon you. We can resurrect Xiao Wu and help you become a titled Douluo so that you can help Wang Feng. He saved Xiao Wu last time, and he saved us this time. We can't ignore this kindness. He's too powerful, so he doesn't need our power, but you're different. But you're different. If you obtain our power, you will become even stronger. Your power will skyrocket. You can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Tang San seemed to have sensed something upon hearing this. Only Xiao Wu, who was circling around the 2 soul beasts, barely managed to open her mouth. Ming appeared to be a simpleton, but he was actually no fool. In fact, it could be said that he was very intelligent and had a clear grasp of the situation. After that, Deming and Ming turned to Tang San with an intense gaze. We'll sacrifice ourselves to you so that you can absorb our soul rings in a short time and quickly become a titled Douluo. Go resurrect Xiao Wu and help Wang Feng. Deming stared at Tang San with an intense gaze. Tang San's heart jolted slightly, and he first glanced at Xiao Wu, then at Wang Feng in the distance, then at Deming and Ming. Without any hesitation, Tang San raised his golden trident and extended his right arm. With his chaotic azure lotus true body, Wang Feng's powers were elevated to another level. Aside from his Pangu axe, his martial soul true body was the only thing that Wang Feng could use to defend himself against a demigod. The reason for this was very simple. It had all red soul rings. In the state of his martial soul true body, Wang Feng could use 2 different forms, and all of his soul skills were greatly enhanced. Wang Feng clicked his tongue as he looked at the 200-meter-long dragon in the distance. It was even bigger than the deep-sea demon whale, but Wang Fengxian had a feeling that it hadn't activated its martial soul true body yet. However, its size was just as Wang Feng had expected. The reason was very simple. Divine light of universe. The cauldron of universe appeared in his hand again. The chaotic azure lotus gave off a dazzling divine light that made the cauldron of universe even more dazzling. A waterfall of rainbow divine light fell from the cauldron of universe and struck Long Xie's body. Suddenly, Wang Feng felt his soul power drain rapidly. There was no way the enormous Long Xie could dodge the cosmos divine light. Even though the waterfall-like Qinquan divine light was tiny to Long Xie didn't care about it at all. The moment the divine light of universe landed on Long Xie's body, Long Xie suddenly let out a terrified roar. Then his body shrunk rapidly. For more than 200 meters, it was as if he had been shone on by a shrinking lamp. He shrunk to more than 100 meters. He shrank to half his original size, and his scales gave off a slightly dim luster. Human, are you trying to restrict me? Long Xie roared in shock. It's useless, my dragon body won't be affected by any human soul skills. Break. As soon as he finished speaking, Long Xie's blood-red scales shone with a sinister blood-red light. Then, the blood-red light enveloped Long Xie's body. In the next moment, Long Xie's body, which had been weakened by the divine light of universe, started to expand rapidly. In just a few seconds, Long Xie became 200-meter long again. Now he was close to 300-meter long. Wang Feng shook his head. This Long Xie's true form was no ordinary being. The divine light of universe was effective, but it was limited. After all, it was only a soul skill. Thinking of this, Wang Feng released his innate 5 directions domain, and a white world covered 100 meters around him. The 5 small flags revolved around Wang Feng, making him look like a divine general. Roar! At this moment, Long Xie, who had become even bigger, suddenly flew up. Its dragon wings covered the sky as it locked onto Wang Feng, who was in the innate unharmed domain. In a chapter. Chapter 866. The boundless blood-black light turned into a boundless domain that covered thousands of meters. Wang Feng's innate 5 directions domain was like a swimming pool in this blood-black sea. It wrapped around Wang Feng so that he wouldn't be swallowed by this sea of blood. In the next moment, Long Xie's enormous body shot towards Wang Feng like a streak of blood-red light. His wings suddenly straightened, and like the wings of an airplane, they formed a 200-meter-long blood-red blade that slashed towards Wang Feng's domain. Bang! The terrifying blade slashed down, and it seemed to cut the innate 5 directions feather in half as it landed on Wang Feng's body. Boom! As the sharp blade descended, it gave off a massive aura, causing the ground and the surroundings to crack open by 100 meters. The unparalleled power caused the surrounding area to become barren. Long Xie spread his wings and slashed down with the strength of his innate true body. However, he felt as if he had struck an indestructible rock. He stared at the figure below, the blood-red blade formed by his wings. Invincible, Long Xie snorted. Wang Feng was holding onto the 100-meter-long blade with both hands. He looked like an ant holding onto a huge blade. Wang Feng wasn't hurt at all, but the strength of his opponent's attack had already surpassed his own. In this state, Long Xie was stronger than Wang Feng in all of his elemental attributes. It had reached a terrifying level. Even in his martial soul, true body state, he couldn't compare to Long Xie at all. Long Xie was definitely a demigod. However, he was definitely stronger than a demigod. Seeing that Wang Feng wasn't hurt at all, Long Xie was very sure that he was invincible. Otherwise, with his current strength, there was no way a human soul master would be able to return the needle without suffering any injuries. In the next moment, Long Xie didn't say anything. He spat out a streak of blood-red light. The blood-red light was extremely evil, and it sprayed towards Wang Feng like lava. Wang Feng frowned. He shook his hands to push the blood-red blade away, and his wings reverted back to their original form. Wang Feng immediately scattered, but he was stained by the blood-red light. The blood-red light contained an extremely evil aura. The blood-red pattern on Wang Feng's chest flashed, and the blood-red light was instantly absorbed. Human, you're becoming more and more interesting. You can even absorb my blood-red light. Not only can you purify your source, but you can also absorb it. Your blood-red pattern is weaker than mine, but it's not as simple as it looks. Long Xie's eyes flashed with a strange light as he spoke. This human was giving him more and more surprises. Even though he had only used 90% of his strength, it was still reasonable to say that no one in this world could withstand his power. However, this human in front of him seemed to be different. In the next moment, Long Xie's claw could. His attacks came wave after wave, not giving Wang Feng any chance at all. However, the exchange between the two of them just now was completely different. Long Xie was Xies's Kukud's attack of Long Xie of a demigod. Of Long Xie's demon, true body. Of Xie of Long Xie, eyes, Xielong, Xie wasn't stupid, even though he liked to show off. He had just shaken off the blood-red blade and dodged the blood-red light. His claw was so powerful that it could crush a mountain. Wang Feng was stunned. He didn't have time to unleash his white lotus, so he could only punch out. Instantly, Long Xie's huge body was pushed back. Like a sharp arrow, Wang Feng was also sent flying backwards. Long Xie was astonished. He had used 90% of his strength, but he couldn't crush Yi Futian. Yi Futian? He was even pushed back by Long Xie's strength? He was a dragon. A true dragon that was close to 300 meters long. How could Long Xie's ant-like body unleash such terrifying strength in his current state? In the state of his martial soul true body, Wang Feng's amplification soul skills were enhanced. He was naturally stronger than before. Wang Feng's current state was even stronger than when he fought BB Dawn. This dragon is smart. He doesn't seem to want me to use my white lotus. Wang Feng grunted. Does that mean he's afraid of the white lotus? The white lotus can purify the evil spirit and demonic qi. It's not an exaggeration to say that it's his nemesis. Long Xie attacked again at this moment. Wang Feng focused on Long Xie's huge claw. He immediately used his extreme dragon falcon kill and disappeared from where he was. Not only could this soul skill be used to attack, but it could also be used to defend. It was a soul skill that could attack and defend at the same time. In the next instant, Wang Feng appeared behind Long Xie. 3 blazing arcs of light slashed down. His martial soul, true body, didn't enhance the soul skills of his soul bones. However, Wang Feng's current state was much stronger than before. Naturally, this soul skill was much stronger. The arcs of light that were several meters long landed on Long Xie's rock-like back. CI. 2 of the attacks pierced through the scales on Long Xie's back. The third attack landed on the flesh beneath the scales. Blood splattered everywhere. This was the advantage of Long Xie's bigger body. Even though he was stronger, it was still difficult for him to dodge Long Xie's attacks. Long Xie was furious that his back had been injured. His reaction was extremely fast. His bloody back suddenly twitched. Countless scales scattered, revealing numerous blood-red vortexes that looked like eyes. There were more than 100 of them. Boom! In the next instant, Long Xie roared. The blood-red vortexes on his back shot out streaks of blood-red light toward Wang Feng. They were like blood-red lasers that wanted to turn Wang Feng into a sieve. Long Xie's entire body was a weapon. Wang Feng furrowed his brow. He couldn't use a soul skill like the extreme dragon falcon kill consecutively. It had a cooldown time. If he used it forcefully, it would cause unavoidable damage to his leg bones. Wang Feng spread his wings and faced the blood-red lasers head-on. He didn't try to dodge them. In his invincible state, these energy attacks couldn't stop Wang Feng at all. Long Xie couldn't suppress him unless he used his strength to attack. Wang Feng faced the countless lasers. The mysterious underworld spike quickly formed a huge mysterious underworld sword in his hand. He slashed it toward Long Xie. The sword light was more than 10 meters long. It was like a dragon-slaying blade. It slashed down on the blood-red vortexes. At this moment, Long Xie's tail swept towards Wang Feng at the critical moment. Bam! Wang Feng used one hand to grab onto the tail. He was knocked back. Because of this, the sword light that was more than 10 meters long slowed down by a bit. However, the scales on Long Xie's back quickly closed up in just a few seconds. The sword light, which was more than 10 meters long, only made a sizzling sound as it stood on his back. End of chapter. Chapter 867. Human, it seems that I have 90% of my strength. It seems that I must show you 99% of my strength. Long Xie was furious, but his voice was cold. Wang Feng, can't you use 100% of your power? In the next moment, Wang Feng sensed that he was locked on by a horrifying spiritual force. Wang Feng's innate 5-direction territory had been activated for more than half of the 25 seconds. At the same time, more than half of the scales on Long Xie's body fell off, as if they were molting. Then, they gathered around Wang Feng in the air. They formed a prismatic shape and wrapped around Wang Feng. It even wrapped around Wang Feng's territory. Wang Feng's heart skipped a beat. This was a control-type skill, and not just any control-type skill. Those blood-red scales had cut off Wang Feng's spiritual force. In other words, the cage made of blood-red scales prevented him from teleporting out. He couldn't sense the outside. This pretentious dragon is trying to drag out the duration of my invincibility. Wang Feng looked at the scales around him. The scales seemed to be upside down and unbreakable, emitting rays of blood-red light. Wang Feng punched out, and in the next moment his entire body was directly sent flying. The scales that were hit emitted rays of blood-red light that extended to all the scales. It can be reflected. Wang Fengxian was shocked, and the power is shared by all the scales. It's hard to break through. I guess it can even absorb energy attacks. As if to confirm, Wang Feng released a star cannon. At the same time, the black and white light cannons in the territory also shot toward the scales. However, it was as Wang Feng had expected. All of the energy attacks were absorbed by him. Not only that, they were reflected. Seeing this, Wang Feng frowned slightly. Long Xia liked to show off, but he was very experienced in battles. He had been suppressing his chaos martial soul true body so that Wang Feng wouldn't have time to release the White Lotus. Now, he was using this special method to control Wang Feng. There were only a few seconds left before the invincibility ended. If this continued, Wang Feng would be the only one who would lose, or he would have to use the Pango axe. Wang Feng thought for a while. Suddenly, a huge tremor came from outside. Rays of powerful energy suddenly came out of the scales. The strange power seemed to penetrate Wang Feng's mind and body. It was as if an invisible energy had passed through the blood-colored scales and attacked Wang Feng. From afar, it looked like a streak of blood-red light was rushing through Wang Feng's body. Not only was Wang Feng unable to move, but his soul force and spiritual power were also rapidly depleting. Wang Fengxian was shocked. Could it be that the blood-red scales could attack from the inside as well as from the outside? If that was the case, it would be troublesome. Outside, Long Xia excitedly attacked the cage formed by the blood-colored scales. From time to time, he would spit out raging flames, and from time to time, he would brandish his dragon claws to attack the cage. This skill was his ultimate skill. Removing the defensive scales on his body, he could wrap his enemies up. With the support of his domain, not only could he trap his enemies and prevent them from leaving, he could also attack his enemies from the outside. God-binding scale cage. As the name implied, even gods could be imprisoned. Of course, that was Long Xia's opinion. Such a powerful move was naturally extraordinary. As a million-year soul beast, his strength wasn't that simple. Long Xia knew that he only needed to wear out Long Xia's invincibility. When the God-binding scale cage disappeared, Long Xia would be reduced to a pile of mush. It wasn't to his taste, but this human was too strong. It was impossible to defeat him unscathed. Bang, bang, bang. Long Xia attacked again and again. The God-binding scale cage lasted for a long time. It was enough for him to attack as much as he wanted. A deafening sound reverberated through the air. Every strike of his contained 99% of his current strength. The more he attacked, the more excited he became. But right at this moment, a sharp howl could be heard coming from afar. In the next moment, a beam of green light slammed into Long Xia. Without the protection of his scales, he was hit by the attack. Large patches of flesh and blood were being corroded by the green light. A visible hole appeared where the wound had been, but Long Xia's body was so huge that the beam of light didn't penetrate his body. His life force was quickly being corroded. Long Xia was stunned. Who is it? Long Xia looked at the source of the attack. An angry dragon roar came from its mouth. Why are these people always attacking me? The God-binding scale cage was an extremely powerful control-type skill. It had a wide range and was very controlling. However, there was a flaw. That was, without the scales on his body, his defense would be greatly reduced. Otherwise, This emerald green light that contained an evil aura of death might not have been able to break his scales. It was a woman. She had 6 slender spider legs that were as sharp as blades on her back, and her forehead was covered with emerald green patterns. Her entire body exuded an extremely powerful aura. Her soul power was so condensed that it was almost tangible. The evil aura of death seemed to penetrate the void from her cold eyes. Long Xie frowned. This woman has such a powerful aura. A god? No, not exactly. Is she a demigod? Long Xie looked at the woman in the distance. She was a woman, but because she was using her martial soul true body, her current state was more like a large spider empress that was constantly exuding an imperial aura. She was BB'd on. Not far behind her, the 4-titled Douluo stared at the huge dragon in front of them in horror. It was too big. Compared to the size of a human, this blood dragon was smaller than an ant. Just his aura alone was enough to make these titled Douluo lose all will to fight. The difference between their ranks was too great. It was the most terrifying domain. The 4-titled Douluo didn't dare to step into the blood-red domain. If they did, they would probably die. However, they didn't want to die. Instead, they flew down to the 100,000-year soul beasts by the lake. That was their target. It was also the Pope's order. Bibi Dawn didn't want them to fight. The Rakshasa demon, Scythe, appeared in her hand. Bibi Dawn looked at the cage made of scales at the side, and the coldness in his eyes intensified. In the next moment, the purple wings on Bibidon's back flapped. Her 9 soul rings rose as she attacked Long Xie. Human, I'm not in a mood to fight with a demigod. I suggest you get out of here. Long Xie snorted. Otherwise, you'll suffer a terrible fate. I promise. Although he didn't have any defensive abilities, he was still very strong. If he couldn't do it, he would use 999% of his strength. In a chapter. Long Xie. He looked at the woman who exuded an incomparably powerful aura. He could only think to himself, these humans are so cunning. Compared to that human brat just now, he was not inferior at all. Long Xie snorted, it doesn't matter. The human won't be able to live anyway. Given my attack and the God Binding Scale cage, there's no way he'll survive. He should be a pile of mush by now. You want to save him? What a pity. If I had arrived earlier, I might have been able to save him. But now, at this point, Long Xie smiled smugly. Bibidon's pupils contracted when she heard that. She roared and her aura surged. Her eyes turned purplish black, and her soul bones appeared on her body. Long Xie was stunned. This woman's aura seemed to be stronger than before. What was she trying to do? Was she trying to kill him? Long Xie stared at Bibi Dawn in shock. He can't be dead. Bibidon's terrifying voice rang out. Other than me, no one can hurt him. Who do you think you are? If he's really dead, you would have retracted the God-Binding Scale cage to defend yourself. You wouldn't be acting like a bald dragon. Long Xie was stunned when he heard that. This woman's reaction was really fast. He couldn't fool her at all. Long Xie didn't know if the human was dead or not. However, the words bald dragon infuriated Long Xie. Despicable human. Even the sun doesn't dare to compete with my handsomeness. How dare you call me a bald dragon? In the next moment, 2 figures, one big and one small, shone brightly in the sky. The terrifying sounds of battle dyed the sky a mixture of blood and purple. Without the scales, Long Xie wasn't much weaker. Furthermore, those scales were extremely heavy. They weighed at least a few 100,000 kilograms. They were similar to Wang Feng's shimming armor. Without the scales, his defense was weaker. However, Long Xie's speed and agility had increased greatly. Bibi Dawn had a divine artifact. Now that he had activated his martial soul true body, he was even stronger than when he fought Wang Feng. He wasn't any weaker than Wang Feng. Soon, more and more wounds appeared on Long Xie's body. As a demigod, Bibi Dawn had a divine artifact. With the Rakshasa demon scythe, he could really injure Long Xie. Unfortunately, the 2 of them had similar attributes. One of them was filled with evil and resentment. The other was filled with extremely evil and murderous energy. In essence, It was an energy attack that belonged to the evil type. Long Xie's body was very strange. He could absorb such energy. When Wang Feng used the god-killing spear, he was able to injure Long Xie, but Long Xie was able to absorb some of the murderous energy from the god-killing spear, which helped him. As a demigod, Bibidon had many powerful attacks. He could inflict great damage on Long Xie. However, some of his attacks would be absorbed. Long Xie, on the other hand, only used his pure strength to attack Bibidon. Long Xie could tell that this human woman was very strong. However, she was more powerful because of her divine artifact and divine artifact. In terms of pure strength, she wasn't very strong. Her body wasn't stronger than that human boy. Under such circumstances, the two sides were actually unable to do anything to each other in the battle. Long Xie was getting more and more injured, but his eyes were getting brighter and brighter. His injuries were severe, but he could absorb some of the energy from the attacks to replenish himself. Therefore, he was still able to gain the upper hand. There were also many wounds on Bibidon's body. 2 of the spider legs on its back were broken, and the spider blades on its arms were full of bloody marks. There were also some cracks on her soul bone armor. As she hadn't passed the divine test, her soul bones hadn't formed the true Rakshasa divine armor yet. If this continued, the best outcome would be for both sides to be severely injured. Bang! Bibidon's figure slammed into the huge god binding scales cage. On the other side, Long Xie's wings were also cut off by the demon's scythe. He was in so much pain that he couldn't stop howling. Bibidon struggled to stand up. She spat out a mouthful of blood. Her face was a little pale, and the emerald patterns on her forehead were a little dim. Right at this moment, it was as if she had crashed into the cage. A beam of intense light shot out from the god imprisoning scale cage. The light was so bright that it illuminated the blood-red color on the outside of the god imprisoning scale cage. Dong dong dong. Several sounds could be heard from the god imprisoning scale cage. It was as if the cage was being attacked again. In the next moment, cracks appeared on the outside of the god imprisoning scale cage. Streaks of light rushed out of the god binding scales in a bid to outdo each other. However, the god imprisoning scale cage didn't crack. Bibidon was pleasantly surprised when she saw this. She didn't think too much about it. She gathered all her strength into the demon's scythe in her hand. Her 9 soul rings shone with different colors. She circulated her soul power to the maximum. She slashed the scythe at the crack in the cage. P.S. There's still 3 chapters left. I've been very tired lately. I need a rest. In a chapter. Chapter 869. Inside the God-binding scale cage. Wang Feng tried his best, but he couldn't break it. He couldn't release it from the outside, and the inside would absorb the attack and distribute it to all the scales. No matter how strong the attack was, it wouldn't be able to cause any significant damage to the scales. The reflected power made it impossible for him to attack continuously, and he couldn't use continuous damage to strengthen his attack. Wang Feng thought for a long time, and he thought of the Ice Flame Fury Lotus. The Ice Flame Fury Lotus's attack range was thousands of meters. Even a small city could be directly bombed to the ground. Although this scale cage was huge, it was much smaller than the Ice Flame Fury Lotus's attack. If it exploded in such a place, the Ice Flame Fury Lotus's energy would be compressed, and it would be even more powerful. In addition, Wang Feng was still invincible. He still had a chance to destroy this scale cage. With his martial soul true body, the Ice Flame Fury Lotus's power was increased by 100%, and it was naturally very powerful. There was another key point, his 100,000-year soul ring. His second soul ring was already a 100,000-year soul ring. The power of this attack wasn't inferior to any of Wang Feng's other attacks. However, the only downside was that the attacks from the outside continued, and Wang Feng was constantly attacked from the inside. He couldn't charge the Ice Flame Fury Lotus. Otherwise, he would be interrupted. After a while, the attacks from the outside stopped. Wang Feng was a little surprised. Did Long Xie stop? That's impossible. That could mean that something else had happened. No matter what, Wang Feng didn't need to think too much. He just needed to take this opportunity to release the Ice Flame Fury Lotus. Wang Feng had rarely used this move, because the area was too big, and it was a group attack. He couldn't control it. If he wasn't careful, both sides would be killed. Furthermore, as Wang Feng's attacks increased, he didn't lack group attack soul skills. Most importantly, he didn't need them. Without large-scale battles, group attack soul skills weren't as powerful as single-target soul skills. But now this move might be the key to breaking this scale cage. The red lotus in his hand was blooming with the colors of ice and fire, one red and one blue, and it seemed to contain an explosion that could destroy heaven and earth. After charging, the red lotus seemed to have grown several times bigger. Wang Feng threw it out, and it floated in midair. Because he didn't use it often, Wang Feng almost forgot what it looked like. Explode. In the next moment, every lotus petal exploded. The icy blue and fiery red light blocked Wang Feng's vision. The attack had no blind spots. Coupled with the compression of the scale cage, this move exploded with unparalleled power. It had to be known that an attack range of several thousand meters was compressed into a scale cage with a diameter of only 100 meters. Now that the range had shrunk by several dozen times, Wang Feng did not know how much stronger this move would become. However, when it erupted, Wang Feng did feel the power of this move. To be honest, he was a little strong. The powerful airflow caused him to be blown to the left and right, and he was directly slammed into the wall of the cage. A thumping sound could be heard. Without the invincible state, Wang Feng would definitely be injured in his current situation. And it wasn't just a light injury, it was a serious one. How strong was his body now? Even a rank 99 transcendent Douluo couldn't possibly be stronger than his body. After the Ice Flame Fury Lotus was compressed to this extent, the power of its explosion was something Wang Feng couldn't imagine. Coupled with the fact that it was an all-around attack, all the scales inside the cage were hit by the explosion and icicles. The scorching fire burned every blood-red dragon scale. No matter how flat the damage was, it was useless. After a while, Wang Feng released the weight of the mysterious underworld armor, but it couldn't completely block the airflow caused by the explosion. One could only imagine after a while. It slowly stopped. Wang Feng looked around and was slightly delighted. As expected, his thoughts were correct. This scale cage couldn't absorb such an all-around attack. There were some cracks vaguely. At this moment, Wang Feng's innate five-direction domain had disappeared, but he was still not afraid. The innate five-direction flags were in cooldown, but Wang Feng still had the defense of the Black Lotus. In his martial soul true body form, he could still protect himself from such an explosion by using two forms. However, the effect of this Ice Flame Fury Lotus was a little exaggerated. Wang Feng couldn't take it if there were a few more. Just like this after the third attack. There were finally many more cracks in the scale cage. But it was still lacking. Wang Feng rested for a while and used the Black Lotus to replenish his soul power. Just as Wang Feng was condensing the fourth attack, it was also at this moment. Bibi Dan swung her Rakshasa demon scythe, gathered all her strength, and slashed at the crack. At the same time, Long Xie saw this from afar. Almost at the same time as Bibi Dan swung her Rakshasa demon scythe, Long Xie didn't hesitate. She opened her mouth and spat out an intense blood-red beam of light at Bibi Dan. With Bibi Dan's speed, he could easily avoid the blood-colored light pillar that was emitting an extremely evil aura. But she didn't. Almost at the same time as the Rakshasa demon scythe landed on the crack in the scale cage, the blood-red beam of light hit her directly. She was bathed in the blood-red beam of light. The remaining 4 spider legs on her back were instantly shattered. Even one of the soul bones in his body had shattered. It was a direct hit. Long Xie's attack wasn't weak. Moreover, Bibi Dan was using all her strength to attack the crack. She didn't have time to defend herself at all. At the same time, under the attack of the Rakshasa demon scythe, the crack gradually became bigger. Countless cracks spread throughout the entire god-binding scale cage. Then, boom, The entire god-binding scale cage was shattered. Countless dragon scales scattered with a rustling sound. Bibidon spat out a mouthful of blood. Her face was extremely pale. She was severely injured by this attack. But she didn't die. She just suffered a great loss. She was falling rapidly, but her eyes were fixed on the figure that was revealed as the god-binding scale cage was destroyed. Bibidon seemed to have received confirmation. A light flashed across her eyes. At the same time, Wang Feng also stared blankly at Bibidon, who was falling from above and looking at him. He was also looking at Bibidon. His mind was frozen. Time seemed to have stopped. Everything seemed to be frozen at this moment. The blood-red dragon scales were like flowers falling from the sky. Only the two of them were staring at each other. Logically speaking, Bibidon didn't look very good right now, because it seemed to be in its martial soul true form. The Soul Eater Spider Emperor was an extremely vicious and savage arachnid soul beast. However, Wang Feng felt that the current Bibidon made him feel a little moved. Bibidon closed her eyes when she saw Wang Feng staring at her. After receiving confirmation, she didn't seem to want to look at him. In the next moment, Bibidon felt a light that felt like a spring breeze fall on his body. His internal injuries were rapidly recovering. At the same time, a huge sword landed below Bibidon and caught her. End of chapter. Chapter 870. I didn't expect it to be her. Wang Feng shook his head. It had only been a month, but it felt like years. Almost immediately, Wang Feng understood what had happened. Long Xia's attack had stopped because Bibidon had come and fought with him. Long Xia couldn't continue attacking. He had bought some time for himself. Bibidon should have seen the crack on the scale cage. He was almost there, but his soul power was too strong. After all, he had just used the innate 5-direction domain, so he had a rest to recover. Bibidon planned to attack the crack from the outside, but Long Xia must have seen it and wanted to stop him, so he attacked Bibidon. Bibidon slowly opened his eyes. On the other side of the sword, Wang Feng stood quietly. The black light shield formed by the black lotus covered the sword formed by the mysterious underworld spike. Bibidon stood up, looked at Wang Feng, and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. I owe you for what happened last time. Wang Feng. As expected of Bibidon. Can you pay me back? Wang Feng asked with interest. Bibidon. Maybe. I can't pay you back. The 100,000-year-soul beast was nothing, but the 8th test was special. She passed it perfectly and saw through her inner demon. Now, she had received the inheritance of the divine position without any help. Her state of mind had changed, and she had the martial spirit alliance, the master of the continent. Bibidon was silent. At this moment, you don't owe me anything. Wang Feng shook his head. I did those things in the martial spirit palace to gain your trust. To put it bluntly, back in the Rakshasa mystic realm, I wanted to use the original sin domain to destroy your deity position inheritance. I just didn't expect that I would help you pass the 8th test. Wang Fengxian had always had a complicated feeling about Bibidon. He was the first villain in the original work, but after entering the Luosha secret realm, Wang Feng understood Bibidon completely. How should he put it? A man's bad nature. He felt a little sympathy for the other party and felt that he was also a tragedy. However, Wang Feng did not pity Bibidon. With Bibidon's strength at that time, there was no need for Wang Feng to pity him. That was why he decided that he would only destroy the other party's deity position inheritance. Then, she would downplay the conflict between her and Tang San's group. However, he didn't expect that not only did his plan fail, but it also accelerated the other party's progress. With the current martial soul alliance and the demigod Bibidon, even Xianren Xue had not reached this level yet. Wang Feng said this because he felt that there was no need to hide it anymore, because his identity had been completely exposed. I know. Bibidon fell silent for a moment before murmuring, when your identity was exposed, I already guessed it when I asked you about it on the Sea God's Island. Wang Feng smiled. Actually, if his identity was exposed, it would be very easy to guess that he was in the Rakshasa mystic realm. Because he was a spy at that time, how could he help an enemy? It could only be a coincidence. You don't owe me anything. Wang Feng looked at Long Xie in the distance, whose dragon scales had returned to his body. "No, I owe you," Bibi Don said. Wang Feng. This mother and daughter were really carved out of the same mold. Their stubborn and straightforward personalities were quite similar. However, Qianren Xue was still fine. Bibi Don probably wouldn't be easily influenced by others. This kind of person would definitely think that she was right. Even if she was wrong, it was almost impossible to change her mind. "Last time, I didn't want to kill you." Bibi Don transformed back into her martial soul true body and gradually returned to her human form. Her clothes were already tattered because of the battle just now. Her snow-white skin was revealed. She was extremely tall, at least 178 meters, the standard height of a queen. With shoes, she was easily 180 meters tall and gave off a great pressure. At this moment, she was only a few centimeters shorter than Wang Feng. "You were indeed hurt by me. This time, I've returned half of your life. Also, I've already killed Wang Feng." Bibi Don looked at the man in front of her and said indifferently, "You're Wang Wu." Her voice was filled with decisiveness and decisiveness. Even though she was severely injured, she was still the lofty and noble pontiff. Wang Feng. Wang Feng frantically told himself in his heart, "Women are illogical. Don't talk to them about logic." "All right." Wang Feng looked at Long Xie in the distance. This dragon's strength had already exceeded Wang Feng's expectations. He was in a good state right now. He was injured, and his spiritual power and soul power had been greatly depleted. Bibidon's injury should be quite serious. She was recovering quickly with the Golden Lotus healing, but she couldn't fully recover in a short time. Long Xie had also expended a lot of soul power. However, its recovery speed wasn't any slower than theirs. Long Xie didn't attack right away when it saw Wang Feng come out. Instead, it absorbed the dense blood-black mist around it. "You want to kill him?" Bibi Don saw the situation in Wang Feng's eyes. "Why don't you use that axe?" Wang Feng naturally didn't want to use it. His soul rings were all red. As he became stronger, his Pangu axe would definitely be stronger. However, it was also harder to control. The main reason was that he couldn't control his explosive blood attack. If he used the Pangu axe, it would be a one-on-one fight. He would definitely be injured, and he would bleed. Once he bled, it would be game over. Wang Feng didn't think it would be as easy as last time. His spiritual power had made a temporary breakthrough, and he was able to control it in time. His spiritual power wasn't increasing quickly because it was being compressed. His spiritual power had been stuck for more than half a year, so he was able to make a breakthrough then. Even if he used it, Wang Feng wasn't sure if he could kill Long Xie. Wang Feng looked at Bibi Don. Bibi Don was also gone. She had been thinking about what had happened back then for the past few days. She didn't understand the situation back then. She was too emotional and lost some of her ability to think. She only managed to organize her thoughts after she woke up. Wang Wu was definitely in an uncontrollable state back then. He only managed to stop it at the last moment. He didn't use it now, probably because he wasn't able to adapt to that special attack. This was to prevent any accidents. However, Bibi Don was a little curious. How did he survive? "I don't want to use it." Wang Feng looked at Long Xie with a burning gaze. "I have an idea. With the strength of the two of us, we can kill him." Bibi Don was startled. "What idea do you have?" This was an extremely powerful million-year soul beast. It had extremely high intelligence, powerful strength, and a terrifying dragon body. It could be said that it was the strongest creature Bibi Don had seen in so many years. If the dragon scales were still there, he wouldn't be a match for it. Even if Wang Wu didn't use that axe, he wouldn't be a match for it. End of chapter. Chapter 871. Bibi Don was still confident if the two of them were in their best condition. But now, one of her soul bones was broken. Her condition was declining. Although Wang Wu's condition was still okay, his consumption was definitely huge. It was indeed huge. Very simple. Wang Feng slowly said 5 words, "Martial Soul Fusion Skill." Hearing this, Bibi Don was stunned. Martial Soul Fusion Skill? With their strength, using a martial soul fusion skill could indeed unleash a terrifying power. Although Wang Feng was only rank 80, his strength was similar to hers, and his martial soul was definitely stronger than her twin martial souls. It seemed to be possible, but how difficult was it to use a martial soul fusion skill? Martial soul fusion skills were as rare as soul bones. They were extremely rare. The probability was too low, and the requirements were too high. The most basic point was that the two peaks had to cooperate with each other and know each other well. More importantly, the compatibility of the martial souls. Her twin martial souls were two extremely evil and ferocious spider emperors. There's almost no one on this continent who could be compatible with her martial soul. Coupled with her identity as the Pope, who was qualified to be her martial soul fusion target. Even if there was someone who was compatible with her martial soul, it was impossible for them to be stronger than her. Their aura was naturally inferior, and they still wanted to fuse with her martial soul. Who could understand her? If they didn't understand her heart, how could they be connected to her heart and achieve a perfect fusion? A single glance from BB Dong would probably cause the other party to piss his pants in fear, causing his mind to tremble. Those titled Douluo were the same. Who could understand her? If they didn't understand her heart, how could they be connected to her heart and achieve a perfect fusion? It was impossible for BB Dong to tell others about his own matters. Therefore, martial soul fusion skill was a big killing weapon that BB Dong had never thought of, because she felt that she was enough and didn't need any martial soul fusion skill. But now, Wang Wu's words seemed to have opened a new world for her. In terms of understanding, Wang Wu was the person who knew her the best in this world. Coupled with Wang Wu's identity being exposed, BB Dong naturally knew Wang Wu very well. Perhaps the only thing that BB Dong didn't know was that Wang Feng's meteoric tier and the system already had the former secret word and the one secret word. However, she knew most of Wang Feng's character, ability, and the things that happened on this continent. Moreover, he knew it very well. In that case, it would be fine as long as their martial souls were compatible. Give it a try? Wang Feng looked at the BB Dong. BB Dong nodded gently, a rare sense of anticipation rising in his heart. It was a special emotion that BB Dong had not experienced for a long time. At this moment, Long Xia's injuries were mostly healed due to his extremely fast recovery speed. BB Dong and Long Xia's injuries weren't serious to begin with. Long Xia wasn't afraid at all. He planned to use 999% of his strength. Scared? There was no way he would be afraid. He would never be afraid. He didn't have that kind of fear. He, who should have died, was able to survive. No one in this world could kill him, unless a true god descended. Only then would it be possible. At this moment, Wang Feng pondered for a moment. BB Dong was thinking, and so was he. Which of the different forms should be most compatible with Bibidon's martial soul? Theoretically speaking, the Black Lotus should be the most compatible form. That was because the Black Lotus could absorb all kinds of violent and evil auras. It belonged to the evil category. It should be most compatible with Bibidon's martial soul. Wang Feng bragged that the chaotic green lotus form should be able to fuse with most martial souls in the world. That was because of the chaotic green lotus. His martial soul fusion with the 7 monsters had already proven this point. However, Wang Feng didn't plan to take the normal path. He planned to use the white lotus, which was the most incompatible with BB Dong, as the martial soul fusion target. The reason was simple. The White Lotus had the most deadly purifying ability against Long Xia. After the fusion, the attack would have the same purifying ability. That was the only way to kill the million-year soul beast. In terms of attributes, the White Lotus and BB Dong's 2 extremely evil martial spirits were the most incompatible. Therefore, when the White Lotus appeared in Wang Feng's hand, BB Dong felt that Wang Wu must be crazy. You plan to use this to fuse with the martial soul fusion? BB Dong looked at the White Lotus in Wang Feng's hand in disbelief. She knew the ability of the White Lotus very well. It could purify evil from the root. It was this White Lotus that pulled Tang San and the others out of the Rakshasa secret realm. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was the nemesis of all evil in the world. At this moment, BB Dawn was so close to Wang Wu that she could feel the two martial souls in her sea of consciousness sending out an extremely vigilant signal. Of course, Wang Feng said slowly. You, BB Dawn shook her head. That's impossible. The compatibility between this white lotus and my martial soul is almost zero. No, no, no. Wang Feng shook his head and said, have you heard of yin and yang promoting and countering each other? Extreme evil and extreme purity are opposites, but in fact, neither can separate the other. For example, there is only shadow in this world when there is sunlight. When there is good, there is evil. When there is good, there will be bad. Everything in the world has no attribute. It's just that we think it's evil and pure. It's contaminated with different wills that there is such a division. In fact, it's mutually reinforcing. Hearing this, BB Dawn was startled. Similarly, Wang Feng said slowly, you think that the compatibility between this and your martial soul is zero, but I think this is indeed the most compatible. It's precisely because of the opposition that they mutually reinforce each other. In fact, Wang Feng thought so. The Black Lotus seemed to be compatible with Bibidan's martial soul, but Wang Feng felt that the compatibility was at most 99%. But Wang Feng felt that the White Lotus was 100% compatible. Just two words, mutually reinforcing and countering each other. When two extremely repulsive energies, under the influence of humans, it was very likely to reach a subtle balance and even fuse into a brand new energy attribute, allowing the martial soul fusion technique to reach the maximum level. BB Dawn was silent. Wang Feng's words seemed absurd, but there was some truth to it. Let's try it over there. BB Dawn didn't hesitate this time. Wang Feng nodded slightly. Immediately, the primal chaos green lotus reappeared above Wang Feng's head. 7 dazzling soul rings rose into the air, all red soul rings. BB Dawn took a look and was startled again. But she didn't hesitate. With the soul-devouring Spider Emperor as the target, 9 soul rings rose from her body at the same time. Although she had many soul rings, her aura was inferior to Wang Feng's 7 soul rings. Wang Feng's 7 soul rings added up to over 1,000,000 years. The soul-devouring Spider Emperor's projection appeared on Bibidan's body. After hesitating for a moment, BB Dawn stretched out her hand. Wang Feng also hesitated for a moment and gently held it. In the next moment, the soul rings on their bodies began to tremble and rose from their bodies. P.S. It's 7 o'clock today. Good night, everyone. End of this chapter. Chapter 872. A martial soul fusion skill required both of them to be fully focused. When their palms touched, their soul rings rose, and a special sense of connection appeared in their hearts. Wang Feng didn't feel anything from Bibidong's hand. He focused all his attention on his soul rings and his world-cleansing white lotus. His 9 soul rings and 7 red soul rings slowly overlapped, forming a pure golden halo that enveloped the two of them. A glowing white lotus floated out from Wang Feng's body. Under the golden halo, the white lotus shone even brighter. At the same time, the soul-devouring Spider Emperor behind BB Dawn let out a sharp cry. BB Dawn stared at Wang Feng. In the next moment, she disappeared from where she was. She seemed to have transformed into a real soul-devouring Spider Emperor and appeared in the void, as if it had received a response. The center of the white lotus released an intense pillar of light that penetrated the entire soul-devouring Spider Emperor. A sharp cry could be heard again. This cry seemed to contain a tinge of pain, but also a tinge of joy. Under this pillar of light, Wang Feng stared at the soul-devouring Spider Emperor. Right now, the soul-devouring Spider Emperor was like a Digimon that was undergoing a super evolution. Wang Feng could vaguely sense that there was a figure inside the soul-devouring Spider Emperor that was also experiencing this light. That figure closed his eyes and felt the strength of the white lotus. A majestic aura was born from this pillar of light. However, Long Xie could tell that something was amiss. Although he was also recovering from his injuries, he wasn't a fool. Any martial soul fusion skill required time. The first thing Long Xie did was attack Wang Feng and the other man. Wang Feng had already fused with his soul rings, so he couldn't release his chaotic green lotus true body. Most of his soul power surged into the white lotus, and fused with the soul-devouring spider emperor that Bibidon had transformed into. Without his martial soul true body, Wang Feng couldn't release his chaotic green lotus even if it had other forms. Wang Feng couldn't use his martial soul, so he couldn't move. Right now, Wang Feng could only use his spiritual power and the mysterious underworld flying sword. Shake! Wang Feng's soul power surged into the white lotus, causing it to shine brighter and brighter. The blinding light caused the pillar of light to shoot into the clouds. Wrapped in endless light, the soul-devouring spider emperor's form underwent another huge change. Wang Feng's mouth emitted a deep sound. It was like an invisible sound wave that spread around Wang Feng. Although there was only the first note of the chaotic 8 notes, Wang Feng had not given up on the tremor note. He had been concentrating on comprehending it. The word tremble only caused the dragon blood evil dragon's body to tremble slightly. Without much obstruction, it continued to attack Wang Feng. Wang Feng knew that Long Xie's mental power wasn't weak at all. At the same time, Long Xie didn't use any energy attacks because he knew that once he did, he'd be killed. In that case, his energy attack would most likely have no effect on the pillar of light emitted by the White Lotus. It might even be directly purified. Thus, the evil dragon swung its 10-meter-long tail at Wang Feng, emitting a metallic luster. After the dragon scales reattached to his body, it would take a long time before he could use the god-binding scale cage. However, the scale cage on his tail was also as cold as a blade. Wang Feng frowned slightly as he stood motionless in the air. All of the Xianming spikes formed into a 10-meter-long sword. The sword slashed down. Boom! There was a violent explosion in the air, and the Xianming flying sword was instantly destroyed. Even Wang Feng's mental power was shaken, and he grunted. Fortunately, the White Lotus seemed to be just as he thought. Although it seemed like the soul-devouring Spider Emperor's attributes were incompatible, they were actually compatible. They just needed some time to merge. Due to their compatibility, Wang Feng was able to divert some of his mental power to control the Xianming flying sword to block the evil dragon's attack. Although the Netherism flying sword was blasted apart, countless Netherism spikes swiftly formed into a large shield at the first possible moment, and it blocked before Wang Feng. The evil dragon's body was huge. After it destroyed the Xianming flying sword, it immediately swung its claws at the Xianming shield. Bang! A crisp sound was heard. The evil dragon's body shook. He could only feel a huge force rebounding from the Xianming shield. It directly sent him flying backwards. However, the Xianming shield was destroyed again. Wang Feng's mental power was shaken again, and his consciousness became empty. The Xianming shield formed by the Xianming spikes had the rebound ability of the external soul bone. At the same time, it had the ability to weaken the opponent's defense. However, the evil dragon's body was immune to all kinds of effects, and it wasn't affected by this ability. The rebound made the evil dragon very uncomfortable. This was because it was a pure attack, and it was most afraid of such a rebound. This human's defense is also ridiculously strong. It's only slightly weaker than mine. The evil dragon stared at Wang Feng. He knew that he wouldn't be able to defeat the evil dragon in a short period of time if he used pure strength. It's time to show my strength, the evil dragon shouted. Human, you're lucky to have forced me to use this move. I'll show you 999% of my strength. Wang Feng was speechless. In the next moment, the evil dragon stopped in midair. The dragon scales on his body started to shine brightly, as if they were absorbing some kind of energy. There were several patterns on his body that extended all the way to his head. Then, Wang Feng saw the blood-red spots in the sky surging toward the evil dragon from afar. It was as if the evil dragon had become a giant vacuum cleaner, absorbing the blood-red energy. Wang Feng frowned slightly. This energy gave Wang Feng a very special feeling. It was a little similar to when Little Three pulled out the sea god's trident in the sea god's palace. The golden power of faith generated by countless ocean creatures fused into the sea god's trident. The difference was that this blood-red energy was extremely pure evil thoughts. Wang Feng's spirit shook slightly when he touched the blood-red spots. It was as if he could sense the special evil thoughts of some soul beasts through these spots of blood-red light. Could he be absorbing the evil thoughts of the soul beasts in the great star Douluo forest? Wang Feng muttered to himself. The evil dragon's identity seems to be quite special. The blood-red spots in the sky were like a dense rainstorm. They rained down from the sky, but they only landed on the evil dragon. The evil dragon looked like a funnel right now. How many soul beasts were there in the great star Douluo forest? Wang Feng wasn't sure, but there were definitely a lot of them. If the evil dragon could absorb the evil thoughts of soul beasts, it meant that the evil dragon was very special. He was a little curious about the evil dragon's background. Countless spots of blood-red light fused into the evil dragon's body through the dragon scales. The evil dragon's aura was gradually increasing. The evil dragon's size was also increasing. 300 meters, 400 meters, until 1,000 meters. Roar! The evil dragon let out a deafening roar. Even from afar, the evil dragon looked like a giant dragon that connected the heavens and the earth. If we were anywhere else, I might not be able to do anything to you, human. But in this forest, you won't be able to defeat me in this lifetime or even the next. End of chapter. Chapter 873. Long Xie's body grew to 3 times its original size. He was now unimaginably huge. In the next moment, he opened his mouth, which seemed to be able to swallow the sky. A blinding blood-red ball of light was formed. It was directed at Wang Feng. However, this ball of light seemed to need to be condensed, which was why it was so condensed. He needed to condense his energy to the extreme so that the white flower couldn't be purified. He needed to crush his opponent with his strength. This move required a long time to accumulate energy, and it could be easily interrupted. Long Xie didn't use it easily. However, his opponent was using a special skill now. He could use this move too. Ultimate Evil Annihilation. Long Xie had given it a name that he thought was pretty good since it was his own creation. Boundless blood-red light enveloped the sky. The entire sky was dyed a faint blood-red color. The energy that seemed to be able to destroy the universe caused the ground to tremble and the sky to become deathly silent. Wang Feng muttered to himself. No one knew what he was thinking. In the next instant, the light from the white lotus suddenly disappeared. The white lotus dispersed and fused into the soul-devouring spider emperor that was still being nurtured in the white light. It was like a blacksmith forging a divine weapon. When the white lotus fused into the furnace, the entire white cocoon instantly cracked open. A bright golden soul ring formed by 16 soul rings rose from the white cocoon. Wang Feng seemed to be guided by a force. He leaped lightly and arrived in front of the white cocoon. The cocoon shattered, and the soul-devouring spider emperor's ultimate form was finally revealed. Wang Feng's pupil shrank as he looked at the soul-devouring spider emperor's true body. Its originally blackish-green body had turned pure black. However, there were countless white patterns on its body. Its originally ferocious body had also undergone huge changes. As the white patterns fused, it was less than 100 meters tall. Its 6 spider legs shone with a steel-like glow. Its eyes were like black and white magatama that intersected to form a strange Taiji diagram. They seemed to repel and fuse at the same time. Its entire body was covered in crystal-like black and white armor. Following this, Wang Feng landed on the soul-devouring spider emperor's head under the guidance of a force. As he was too big, Wang Feng seemed very small as he stepped on the white patterns. The armor was as pure as crystal, and he didn't feel disgusted by it at all. Under the 2 colors of black and white, there was a strange sense of beauty. An unparalleled aura rose from the soul-devouring Spider Emperor, an aura that surpassed that of a demigod. Wang Feng was sure that there was only one golden soul ring on this soul-devouring Spider Emperor. However, Wang Feng could feel that the aura he emitted was extraordinary. This was a martial soul fusion at the demigod level. Even though Wang Feng's soul power rank hadn't reached, BB Dawn was definitely above rank 99. Furthermore, a portion of the soul power in her body had already been transformed into a portion of divine power. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for her to display such a powerful divine skill. Wang Feng also discovered that behind the soul-devouring Spider Emperor, there were actually 7 sides similar to the Rakshasa demon scythe. When my soul bone shattered. Apart from the external soul bone, the other 5 soul bones have miraculously fused together. A spiritual thought was transmitted into Wang Feng's mind. It was Bibidan's mental transmission. Surprisingly, they fused together. This meant that this was already considered a demigod's equipment. One had to know that it was already incredible for someone who hadn't completely passed the 9th test to be able to do this. Just as you think, the soul-devouring Spider Emperor was very repulsed when it fused with the Rakshasa demon scythe. However, it obediently fused with the power of your white lotus. My soul power and a portion of my divine power have even transformed into a special type of energy. Bibidan looked at Long Xia. At the same time, I can change into 2 forms. This is the soul-devouring Spider Emperor's form, and my original form. Wang Feng nodded. The soul-devouring Spider Emperor's form has a powerful soul skill. It can deal with this soul beast. Right at this moment, the blood-red ball of light in Long Xia's mouth had finished forming. Wang Feng looked at the blood-red ball of light that was at least 100 meters in diameter. It contained explosive energy. Roar! Long Xia roared from its chest. It spat at the soul-devouring Spider Emperor that had just fused with the Rakshasa demon scythe. The extremely powerful energy caused the space around it to distort. Right at this moment, Bibidan moved. The white patterns on her back twisted and wriggled. They instantly formed a huge picture of a white lotus. However, the strange thing was that half of the white lotus was purplish-black. 2 different types of energy fused in the center of the white lotus. Wang Feng was shocked when he sensed the fusion. The fused energy was probably even more powerful than the power of faith. It wasn't any weaker than true divine power. In other words, Bibidan wasn't a god yet. However, she already possessed a portion of a god's strength. In the next moment, the soul-devouring Spider Emperor let out a low cry. Its body started to tremble. Wang Feng's mind was connected to Bibidan, who was in the form of the soul-devouring Spider Emperor. Naturally, he knew that she was using the strongest soul skill of the soul-devouring Spider Emperor. Myriad Origin Coalescence Slash of the Cleansing Lotus. The name of the soul skill might appear automatically the moment it was created. It wasn't Bibidan's name. Otherwise, the name would be too long. Following that, the 7 to 8 demonic sides on the soul-devouring Spider Emperor's back merged into one and pierced through the white lotus. It formed a 100-meter-long energy scythe with one side as black as a demon and one side as bright as day. The 2 different types of energy fused on this demonic scythe. It seemed to cause the surrounding space to collapse. The world seemed to fall into nothingness. In an instant, this black and white demonic scythe pierced through the clouds and shattered the void. It collided with a huge blood-colored ball of light. Wang Feng felt that even if he used invincibility, it might be broken if he was in his best state. This was a power that surpassed the demigod rank. In this world, only true gods could withstand this attack. But at the same time, that blood-colored ball of light wasn't simple. At least from Wang Feng's perception, this evil dragon had accumulated power for such a long time. Its power was also above the demigod rank. It had reached the limit. Even if Wang Feng used Panga's axe and activated explosive blood, its power wouldn't be stronger than these 2 moves. Thinking of this, Wang Feng couldn't help but ponder. The power of a true god should be stronger, right? This move consumed a lot of energy. Almost at the same time, the soul-devouring Spider Emperor turned into countless streaks of light and gradually turned into a human figure. At the same time, it was as if the entire world had been destroyed. A ray of light that could annihilate everything shot out from the sky. The demonic scythe cut open the blood-colored ball of light and slashed towards the evil dragon. However, the blood-colored ball of light wasn't that simple. It turned into countless blood arrows and shot towards Wang Feng. Every blood arrow contained an explosive power. Wang Feng didn't have time to look at the BB Dawn that had turned into a human figure after the martial soul fusion. He used what little spiritual power he had left to control the mysterious underworld spike to erect a green shield that was more than 10 meters tall. The moment the blood arrows hit the green shield, Wang Feng's expression changed. The continuous explosions instantly turned all of the dark nether spikes into dust. Even though the blood-colored ball of light was split in half by the demonic scythe, its power didn't seem to be reduced by much. This was the first time that the mysterious underworld spike, which was an external soul bone, had been destroyed. End of chapter. Chapter 874. The external attachment, soul bone, was closely related to Wang Feng. Even though the mysterious underworld spike's many forms had been shattered, it had never been truly shattered. However, it was completely shattered this time. It would take a very long time for it to be reborn. At this moment, a white light suddenly rose from BB Dawn, who was behind Wang Feng. The moment the green shield was blown to pieces, the white light blocked in front of Wang Feng's body. The white light was like a light barrier that enveloped the two of them. The dense blood arrows were instantly purified and devoured when they hit the light barrier. You're right. Bibidan's voice sounded softly. It seemed that after the martial soul fusion, her voice had changed greatly. Although she was still cold and noble, there was a hint of clarity and gentleness. However, her aura, combined with the world-cleansing white lotus, made her seem like an otherworldly goddess. She had a pure and holy beauty. Only her pitch-black eyes exuded an evil aura that was completely different from her aura. The two types of repulsive energy fused into one, forming two different auras that gave off an extremely strange feeling. However, her charm had increased by several times. Her appearance had reached a peak. In particular, her white and flawless face seemed to emit a holy light. It was very contradictory with her pitch-black, evil eyes. However, it was precisely this sort of contradiction that gave rise to endless evil thoughts in one's heart with a single glance. Wang Feng took a few glances. Other than that, she was also covered in a black and white armor. It was a demigod armor, but it was a pity that she didn't have a torso bone. As a result, her lower abdomen and neck were covered in the Pope's platinum robes. Her long hair, which had been messy because of the previous battle, was now as smooth as a waterfall. The crown on her head was still there. There was only a sickle mark between her eyebrows, but now there was a white lotus below the sickle. At this moment, this white lotus was emitting white halos that formed a light barrier that blocked the blood arrows outside. The power of my soul-devouring Spider Emperor and this white lotus, after fusing together, has brought me infinitely close to the deity level. If not for the fact that I shattered my most important torso bone just now, I could even temporarily form a special deity equipment. Bibidan's pitch-black eyes looked at Wang Feng with an evil aura. There was a rare hint of excitement in his voice as he said, that soul skill of the soul-devouring Spider Emperor's form might have even reached the god tier. However, it consumed a lot of energy. Bibidan's face was slightly pale, but his aura was still relatively calm. Because of their martial souls, this martial soul fusion skill was more like Wang Feng giving his strength to BB Dawn. It was not a true fusion of the two of them. This was because the white lotus was merely a form of the chaotic green lotus, and it was only a tool martial soul. But it was enough. How's the consumption? Wang Feng withdrew his gaze and asked seriously, "These blood arrows will be very troublesome." "I don't know." Bibi Don frowned slightly. "I'm missing a piece of my soul bone. My strength was incomplete before I fused with it. If not for your white lotus being somewhat special and being able to purify these attacks, we might not have been able to withstand them." Cough, cough. After he finished speaking, Bibi Don coughed twice, and the white lotus between his eyebrows flickered. At this moment, Long Xie suddenly let out a roar of extreme pain. The evil dragon had just spat out a blood-red ball of light, and it was already in a weakened state. The blood-red ball was sliced in half, and it was unable to resist the demon side's attack. It was sliced in half at the waist. The blood-red body of the evil dragon was 1,000 meters long, and it let out an enraged roar. Countless tough dragon scales were sliced in half in an instant. Wang Feng and Bibi Don heaved a sigh of relief when they saw this. If their martial soul fusion skill could not kill this million-year soul beast, then they would be out of options. However, it was also at this moment. Bibi Don groaned and spat out a mouthful of blood. The white barrier around him was instantly destroyed. Countless blood arrows shot toward the two of them at this moment. The white lotus did not have soul ring. Although it was powerful, it could purify these attacks. However, Bibi Don had consumed a lot of energy to unleash that attack. There was no way he could completely block this attack. At this critical moment, Wang Feng shouted. Blood patterns flashed all over his body, and he forcefully used his dark angel martial soul to pull Bibi Don behind him. One had to know that he had gathered all his soul power into the white lotus for Bibi Don to fuse with. Even so, he was unable to use the other forms of the chaotic green lotus. This was because he did not have a soul ring. Before Bibidon's martial soul fusion skill disappeared, he could not use the other forms of the chaotic green lotus. He did not have much soul power left, so he could only use his dark angel martial soul. He activated the power of his blood patterns. Countless blood arrows pierced Wang Feng's body at this moment. The strength of a million-year soul beast was not as simple as Wang Feng had thought. Without a true god to block it, the evil dragon's terrifying attack could even kill a demigod. At this moment, Wang Feng suddenly thought of the deep-sea demon whale. The deep-sea demon whale's strength was not as simple as he had thought. This was because the deep-sea demon whale was not truly fighting with its life on the line. The evil dragon's attack was a move that risked its life on the line. If the deep-sea demon whale had used a similar move, Wang Feng would have died if no true god had protected him with the heavy silver pillar. Fortunately, the deep-sea demon whale did not think that Wang Feng was that strong. It did not use such a terrifying move. Countless blood arrows pierced through Wang Feng's body. However, the blood patterns on Wang Feng's body and the black wings on his back shone with dazzling light. They absorbed part of the strength of the arrows. However, the strength of the blood arrows could not be completely absorbed. Such a powerful move almost pierced through Wang Feng's back. Blood flowed out. Many blood arrows even pierced Wang Feng's heart. However, they were blocked by the meteoric tear. Fortunately, Wang Feng's soul bones were not ordinary. Although his Xianming armor was shattered, he still had his torso bones. His left and right leg bones, which were 500,000 years old, were unleashed with great strength. They barely managed to block the blood arrows. Bibi Don, who was being pulled behind Wang Feng, was stunned. Its pupils shrank, and its body shone with an intense light. When it came to its senses, it immediately pulled Wang Feng behind it. The soul bones on its body shone with intense light, and it screamed like thunder. CI. In comparison, Bibidon's soul bones were not as strong as Wang Feng's soul bones. Furthermore, her body was not as strong as Wang Feng's body, which had been tempered by the red lotus and the chaotic divine light. However, the only good thing was that Bibi Don was in a martial soul fusion state. Bibidon's body was also pierced by the blood arrows. Her face turned slightly red. After a while, the blood arrows were destroyed by the light barrier formed by the white lotus and the combined strength of the two of them. However, the two of them were covered in blood. It was not an exaggeration to say that they were on their last breaths. Wang Feng's face was pale. The attack that he had suffered was stronger. However, his body was stronger. Hence, he looked better than BB Dawn. In addition, the blood patterns had absorbed part of the strength. He could still stand in the void, but he was on the verge of collapse. However, half of the 14 pairs of light wings on his back had been pierced through. In a chapter. Chapter 875. In comparison, Bibidin's injuries were more severe. Fortunately, she was in the martial soul fusion state, and her body contained the power of the White Lotus. Part of the blood arrow was purified when it pierced her body. The soul-devouring Spider Emperor was also a martial soul of evil energy. It was very resistant to the evil aura of the blood arrow. "How are you?" Wang Feng looked at BB Dawn. He didn't dare to withdraw the White Lotus and deactivate the martial soul fusion state. Once he deactivated it, BB Dawn would lose the White Lotus, and her injuries would be even more severe. I'm fine," BB Dawn panted heavily. She felt the world spinning around her. If it were anyone else, they wouldn't have been able to withstand the attack just now. However, the two of them managed to withstand it. Wang Feng used the secret character and the meteoric tear. His injuries were recovering at a visible rate. In the next instant, Bibidin's body trembled. The blood arrow wasn't just harmful to her body. She was severely injured. Her consciousness blurred, and she fell. Her initial attack had drained too much of her energy. Seeing this, Wang Feng quickly grabbed Bibidin's shoulder and slowly lowered BB Dawn to the ground. He put her down slowly. Under the momentum of the battle, just now, the surrounding area was almost completely flattened. At this moment, Long Xia had been split in two. He also fell to the ground. They were like two small mountains. It was a horrifying sight. "We won in the end," Wang Feng muttered. Both of them were severely injured. He was glad that he didn't use the Panga axe. If he had, Long Xia might not have died, but he would have. Wang Feng was a little hesitant as he looked at BB Dawn, who was covered in blood. Bibidin's injuries were more severe than his. Her injuries were much more severe, and she was much weaker. He didn't have much soul power in his body. It would be very difficult to heal her. The only way was to condense his own essence blood. One had to know that the essence blood in his body was a great supplement and was incomparably pure. "I can't waste it." Wang Feng looked at the blood flowing out of his body. He clenched his hand, and the blood was quickly sucked into his palm. It formed a bright drop of blood. In any case, it would be a pity to waste the blood that had flowed out. Wang Feng had the esoteric character and the meteoric tear, so his injuries recovered very quickly, unless someone could kill him instantly. Otherwise, he would be immortal. Strands of light gathered in Wang Feng's palm. Then, he dripped a drop of blood into Bibidin's mouth. In the next moment, Bibidin's body shook, and his face flushed slightly. This drop of blood contained an extremely heterogeneous energy. One had to know that Wang Feng's blood had all gone through the meteoric tear and contained a portion of the meteoric tear's energy. The moment she swallowed it, a small amount of energy exploded in Bibidin's mouth and entered her body. After a few breaths, BB Dawn opened his eyes and looked at Wang Feng with a complicated expression. "Does it smell good?" Wang Feng looked at her and asked in a relaxed manner. "I don't know how many soul beasts are craving my blood. Today, I'll make use of it and let you benefit from it." BB Dawn, she glared at Wang Feng. At this time, he was still in the mood to say such things, but it still smelled good. Unlike the fishy smell, the other party's blood contained an extremely pure energy. No wonder his body was so strong and exuded such a pure aura. Special constitution. With the help of Wang Feng's blood, BB Dawn recovered a little, and her aura gradually calmed down. But the two of them were still very weak. BB Dawn lay on the ground and looked at the hazy sky, lost in thought for a moment. It had been a long time since she had experienced such a battle. It felt incredible. "Let me know when you've recovered, so that I can retrieve the White Lotus." Wang Feng glanced at BB Dawn. Just now, the blood arrow pierced through her body, and there were many bloody holes. Blood stained her tattered robe. But at this time, her body was slowly recovering. Bibidon nodded slightly. She still had to rely on the White Lotus to suppress the injuries caused by the blood arrow in her body, to purify the evil thoughts that invaded her consciousness. After a moment, Wang Feng stood up first, and his aura gradually condensed. With the help of the meteoric tear and the esoteric character, he had recovered. Wang Wu, help me up. Let's take a look at that soul beast. Bibidon whispered. Wang Feng nodded slightly and put his arm around Bibidon's shoulder to support her. Bibidon also put one hand on Wang Feng's shoulder, and it looked like the two of them were leaning against each other. At this moment, four figures quickly appeared in front of the two of them. They were Gue Ju, Qian Jun, and the Demon Vanquisher. When the battle erupted, they didn't want to participate at all. It was too terrifying. Even the rank 96 Qian Jun and the Demon Vanquisher couldn't have survived such a battle. The Dragon Evil's tail could probably cripple the two of them. The four of them looked at the Pope and Pope Tiff leaning against each other intimately, and they remained silent as if they didn't see anything. Your Majesty, Pope Tiff, do you want us to take a look at that soul beast corpse? Gue Douluo looked into the distance. This was the first time the titled Douluo had encountered such a powerful soul beast. The terrifying battle just now could be said to have broadened their horizons. Let's go take a look. Bibidon waved her hand and said, "Be careful. That's a million-year soul beast. Guard it well." Seeing this, the four titled Douluo quickly walked over to the evil dragon that had been sliced in half. However, Wang Feng frowned slightly. Something's wrong. What's wrong? Bibidon asked. This soul beast isn't dead. Wang Feng looked into the distance with a cold look in his eyes. Bibidon was stunned when she heard this. I must be confused. If the dragon evil is dead, why isn't there a soul ring? Wang Feng stared into the distance and suddenly shouted, "Wait, don't go over!" Just as he said that, a violent explosion erupted. An intense wave of blood-red light erupted in the distance, and the four titled Douluo were sent flying like kites that had their strings cut. They spat out mouthfuls of blood. A weak but proud voice could be heard. "Ha ha! You didn't expect this, did you? I'm not dead. It's a pity that you didn't finish me off personally. Otherwise, the two of you would have died. I'm immortal. Other than gods, you humans can't kill me." In the distance, the dragon evil's human form rose from the soul beast's corpse. It looked like a ball of blood-red mist. It looked weak, but it was very strange. How is this possible? Bibidon was stunned as he looked at Wang Feng. He tightened his grip on Wang Feng's shoulder. I think I know how this soul beast came to be. Wang Feng recalled the soul beast attack, and his eyes shone with a strange light. Don't worry, I have a way. As he spoke, Wang Feng patted Bibidon's hand. Bibidon was stunned. He calmed down a little and loosened his grip a little. P.S. How many more chapters? In a chapter. Chapter 876. Wang Feng supported Bibidon as they walked forward. Long Xie's body was huge. Even though it had been cut in half by the demonic scythe, it was still wriggling crazily. The enormous amount of energy and life force within its body was on full display. It was like a mountain was wriggling. It was a terrifying sight. The four titled Douluo stumbled as they crawled to their feet. They were horrified as they watched. How strong was this soul beast? How could the shockwaves from its death wound them so easily? The chrysanthemum Douluo, who was slightly weaker, almost stopped breathing. Fortunately, Wang Feng had warned them quickly. They managed to use their soul power to resist the attack. Otherwise, they would have been in a worse situation. Long Xie was shrouded in layers of bloody mist. Countless spots of blood-red energy were flying around him. Even though it wasn't as powerful as before, it was still able to make use of the countless spots of blood-red light to make his body more and more tangible. Human, even though I didn't use my full strength. Long Xie looked at the two of them proudly. But apart from the two of you, there's no third person in this world who can force me to this point. Unfortunately, you're only humans. You're not gods. That attack just now was only close to God tier. However, it wasn't really there. You can't kill me. Long Xia laughed as it said that. If I had used 99% of my strength, you would have lost. Wang Feng, BB Don, you're such a fool. Wang Fengxin couldn't help but curse. However, Wang Feng looked at Long Xia and said slowly, you're 99. 99% of your strength should be related to all the soul beasts in the Great Stardow Forest, right? BB Don was stunned when he heard that. What did that mean? BB Dong felt that this soul beast was just spouting nonsense about having a strength of 999 out of 1,000. It liked to pretend. That was why it said such meaningless things. Just from that move, the other party's strength must have reached the limit. Oh! Long Xia looked at Wang Feng in surprise. Human, it seems your intelligence is second only to mine. However, Wang Feng merely smiled. In the beginning, Wang Feng also thought that the other party was bragging, which was why he said such words. But after thinking about it, that didn't seem to be the case completely. There really was such a possibility. Apart from your own cultivation, the foundation of your strength lies in your own cultivation. Most of it came from absorbing the evil thoughts of all the soul beasts in the Great Stardow Forest. Wang Feng said slowly, the path of cultivation has always been bumpy. On the road to the top, we humans will encounter countless setbacks. Countless evil thoughts and inner demons will appear in our minds, obstructing our path of cultivation. It's the same for soul beasts. Any soul beast can cultivate for a longer time than us humans, so they'll have more evil thoughts. It can be said that almost all the soul beasts in the Great Stardow Forest have countless evil thoughts at all times. Clan conflicts, life and death battles, territorial disputes, reproduction, and so on. You, on the other hand, were born by absorbing these evil thoughts. No, I should say that these evil thoughts are automatically absorbed. Once they're born, you can absorb them. As long as there are soul beasts, you'll have evil thoughts, and you won't truly die. Even if you're reduced to a wisp of consciousness, you can still be reborn. Wang Feng said one sentence after another. Long Xia was silent for a moment after he finished speaking. BB Don was also silent for a moment, but his heart was in turmoil. If that was the case, it was impossible to kill this million-year soul beast, unless they killed all the soul beasts in a Great Stardow Forest. Even so, there were other forests that possess soul beasts besides the Great Stardow Forest. In fact, from the perspective of life, soul beasts also had their own social structure, but it was much more backward than humans. Furthermore, soul beasts didn't have a true leader right now. How can there be such a soul beast? BB Don was in disbelief. If he could absorb evil thoughts to cultivate, this wouldn't be a big deal. No matter what evil thoughts were, they were all emotions. Wang Feng's original sin's domain could absorb all kinds of emotions. BB Don had inherited the godhood, and his Rakshasa domain could also absorb all kinds of evil thoughts to replenish his divine power and weaken him at the same time. However, it was unbelievable that he could be born from evil thoughts. You shouldn't exist in this world. Wang Feng looked at Long Xia and recalled what had happened. A few years ago, you were facing a bottleneck, and the heavenly tribulation was coming. At that time, your aura was rioting, and you wanted to calm down. Since you've absorbed the evil intent, you need a neutral and peaceful soul beast to counteract and slow down the boundless evil intent energy in your body. As for the two great lights, that is, the sky-pressing azure bull python and the titan giant ape, they became the targets of your subordinates. Furthermore, the sky azure bull python has the bloodline of the azure dragon, and it has very few evil thoughts. Its blood can neutralize some of the evil thoughts in your body. You were afraid that you wouldn't be able to survive the heavenly tribulation, but you failed. You should have died under the heavenly tribulation. Wang Feng looked at Long Xia and said indifferently, you shouldn't exist in this world. However, a few days ago, you survived the heavenly tribulation and became a million-year soul beast. At that time, did another voice appear in your head and help you? Long Xia couldn't help but look shocked when he heard this. Long Xia looked at Wang Feng and was truly shocked for the first time. How did you know? How did you know so much about this human? Impossible. It was too strange. Even a god couldn't know this, could he? Especially the last sentence? Long Xie's heart was filled with shock. He had indeed survived the heavenly tribulation because of this. The mysterious voice in his head, of course, Wang Feng knew. It had to be the system's doing. Under normal circumstances, Long Xie should have been struck to death by the heavenly tribulation. He might have even been struck to death a long time ago. This guy didn't appear in the original work. However, his appearance in the Douluo world had affected the world's development and caused great changes. It wasn't just humans. It was the same for soul beasts. Not to mention others. Wang Feng's 4 underlings had brought great changes to the world of soul beasts. Later, with the help of the system, he survived the heavenly tribulation. Wang Feng finally knew why the system wanted him to find this million-year soul beast. Long Xie wasn't created by the system. Long Xie existed in the first place, but it hadn't been a million-year soul beast before. Bibidan also looked at Wang Feng in shock. How did he know this old beast so well? In a chapter that you're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.